Chapter 1172, Bingio's Identity. 4. I can't leave this place, so I can only let you in. Bing Yao added. What do you mean you can't leave this place? Leng Ruoxue had a look of suspicion. Little Shuer, actually, the array here only allows you to enter but not leave. I only realized that I couldn't leave after I entered, so I had no choice but to bring you in. Bing Yao said awkwardly. You're allowed to enter but not leave? Then why did you bring us in? Leng Ruoxue was speechless. Right now, she really wanted to beat Bing Yao up like a demon. This guy was too despicable. He knew that they couldn't get out of here, but he still brought a large group of people in. Among them were the people from the Ning family. If they couldn't get out in the future, the Ning family would be in chaos. I can't get out because I don't know about formations, but you're different. I believe that you will be able to bring us out of here. Bing Yao was very confident and said with certainty, Don't get your hopes up. My formation is only half complete. Leng Ruoxue rudely poured cold water on Bing Yao's head. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She really didn't know how this fellow could be so confident in her. How could the formation that Master used to seal the vengeful spirit be so easily broken? It's fine. I've been here long enough anyway. Now that I have you guys to accompany me, I don't mind when I can go out. Bing Yao said with a proud smile. You don't mind, but I do. Leng Ruoxue rolled her eyes and thought to herself. After hearing Bing Yao's words, her urge to beat him up became even stronger because he was really asking for it. Little Shuer, whether we can leave this place or not all depends on you. Bing Yao said with a smile. You still haven't told me where we are. Leng Ruoxue asked calmly. Didn't I say that this is the place where Master sealed the vengeful spirit? Bing Yao asked in confusion. I know. I'm asking about where we are now. Leng Ruoxue explained. This is the center that controls the entire sealing formation. After I entered, I've been in control of this place. However, in order to prevent the vengeful spirits from escaping, Master did not leave behind the spell to unseal the seal. Bing Yao said, Oh, let's leave this place first. I don't want to make the others wait. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Yes. Bing Yao looked at everything in the purple bamboo house. Although he was a little reluctant, he would have a chance to come in the future. Thanks then, Leng Ruoxue left the bracelet with Bing Yao. After that, they left the wooden house and returned to the crowd. When they saw Leng Ruoxue and Bing Yao, Feng De and the rest quickly surrounded their lady and looked around as if they were looking for something. Then they looked at Bing Yao with caution. Don't look at me like that. I can guarantee that she's not missing a single hair. Bing Yao felt everyone's unfriendly gazes and quickly explained. How dare you kidnap my family's young miss, brothers, Fatek? Beat him up. Under Feng De's command, the people who were surrounding Leng Ruoxue changed their target. They all rubbed their fists and glared at Bing Yao with a murderous look. In the next second, they all swarmed up and started punching and kicking Bing Yao. However, as a reverent god, it was impossible for them to hit Bing Yao. Bing Yao knew how important these people were to his adorable junior sister. Hence, he didn't dare to hurt them other than dodging. Otherwise, he was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would fight him to the death. Leng Ruoxue was kind enough not to add insult to injury when she saw the crowd and Bing Yao chasing each other. However, she did not stop them. Instead, she leaned into the evil man's arms and watched the show. Feng De and the others could not hurt Bing Yao, and it was impossible for Bing Yao to do anything to Feng De and the others. So, she was not worried that they would both be injured. Shuer, did that guy tell you everything? The demon asked. Yes, I roughly said a few things. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Then, do you want to know about my relationship with him? The demon asked with a smile. I'll listen to you. If you don't want to tell me now, I don't have to know. Leng Ruoxue replied nonchalantly. She was very clear that there were some things that the demon would tell her sooner or later. He didn't tell her now probably because it wasn't the right time for her to know. Then we'll talk about it in the future. It's a little early now. The demon said after thinking for a while. All right. By the way, evildoer, we've already destroyed the king of vengeful spirits here. Are we not able to leave? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. I can't get out unless I can break the seal here. The demon said honestly. But this seal was set up by Master. I'm not confident. Lung Ruoxue said softly, feeling depressed. Swear, don't worry. If we can't get out, we'll just cultivate here for the time being. There's a spirit gathering array here. Although the spiritual qi here can't be compared to the space, it's much better than the outside world. The demon consoled. He didn't care if he could go out or not. As long as he was with Shuer, it didn't matter where he was. Chapter 1173, The Formations I-1, Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded. After Feng De, Bing Yao, and the rest were done with the chase, Lung Ruoxue explained the situation to them. Everyone was dumbfounded. Shuer, what do you mean we can't get out? Master Ning said with a surprised face, and thought in his heart, did little Shuer mean what he was thinking? He couldn't believe it. This place only allows entry and not exit, so we can only stay here. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly, her beautiful face filled with helplessness. Arg. Shuer, we can't stay here. Master Ning was sure this time and quickly said, Godfather, I want to go out too, but the truth is that we can't go out now. Lung Ruoxue spoke the truth. In other words, she wanted him to accept reality. What should we do? We really can't stay here. Master Ning sighed gloomily. If he was trapped here, the Ning family would think that something had happened to him. At that time, the Ning family would be in a mess. Miss, do we really have to stay here forever? Feng De also asked. Calm down, it's not forever. Whether we can get out or not, it all depends on little Shuer. Bing Yao said with a smile. Aren't you the one controlling this formation? What does it have to do with my young miss? Feng De's eyes were wide open as he said unhappily, Don't think that just because this guy is my Miss Senior brother, I have to respect him. No way. He was still brooding over the fact that he had brought them in without permission. I only know how to control this formation, but I can't break the seal. Otherwise, I would have left long ago. Why would I still be here? Bing Yao shrugged and explained with an innocent face. Whether or not this seal can be broken, it all depends on little Shuer. Bing Yao added. Little Shuer, your godfather is counting on you. Master Ning stared at Bing Yao and said helplessly. Godfather, I can only say that I will try my best. However, I'm not sure when we can get out. Lung Ruoxue said honestly. It doesn't matter. It's better than never being able to get out. Master Ning said quickly. He didn't want to be trapped here forever. Godfather, there's only one wooden house here. You can arrange for them to build a few houses. We'll be staying here for the time being. I'll go and study this formation. Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment before she pulled the demon into the wooden house and commandeered it. That's my room. Bing Yao could not help but whisper as he watched Lung Ruoxue and the demon enter his house. If my family's young miss uses it, it's my family's young miss. Feng De roared in a domineering manner. Bandits. He wasn't afraid of Feng De and the others, but he was afraid of that violent man. That guy was also the only one among them who could cause him harm. Wu. Don't be so calculative, come and build a house with us. Master Ning grabbed Bing Yao's arm and pulled him away from the place. Feng De and the others also started to get busy. After Lung Ruoxue and the demon entered the wooden house, they immediately teleported into the bangle. Thanks, sister. Qing Ju appeared in front of the two. Qing Ju, I'll go and study the formation here. You pay more attention to the movements outside. After giving her instructions, Lung Ruoxue entered the purple bamboo house. Lung Ruoxue stayed in the purple bamboo house for 3 days. For the past 3 days, the demon had been sitting on the stone chair outside the purple bamboo house, guarding Lung Ruoxue. This was the scene Lung Ruoxue saw when she came out of the purple bamboo house. Freak. Lung Ruoxue walked to the evildoer's side and gently wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. She then rested her head on his shoulder. Shuer, you're out so quickly? How is it, any clues? The demon asked with concern. Not yet, I don't have a single clue, sigh. Lung Ruoxue sighed and said helplessly. She had been concentrating on her research in the cultivation room in the purple bamboo house for a few days. However, she had not made any progress at all. This made her feel a little dejected. Don't give yourself too much pressure. This ceiling formation is used to suppress those vengeful spirits, so its power is definitely much stronger than other formations. Otherwise, if even a single vengeful spirit were to escape, it would bring disaster to the divine realm, the demon consoled. Yes, I know. Evildoer, let's go out and see them. Lung Ruoxue suggested. After researching for a few days without any leads, she also wanted to relax. All right, he said. The demon chuckled as he replied. Sister. At this moment, the fire spirit arrived in front of them and called out softly. Little fire spirit, what's the matter? Lung Ruoxue asked as she hugged the adorable little doll. Sister, there's a method to temper one's body with divine flames in my inherited memories. It can transform the disheveled old man's life divine flame. The little fire spirit explained. He wanted to tell his sister about this when he came out of closed-door cultivation. However, at that time, his sister was busy fighting those vengeful spirits and then studying the ceiling array here, so he didn't have the chance to tell her. Really? Is there any danger? Lung Ruoxue asked in surprise. Yes, sister. There will definitely be danger. However, with me around, the danger will be minimized. Furthermore, the success rate will be greatly increased. The fire spirit said. But we don't have a divine fire right now. When Lung Ruoxue thought of this, she was in a difficult position. Sister, I'm the king of divine flames. With me around, why would you need divine flames? The little fire spirit said a little arrogantly, its proud tail almost reaching the sky. Since that's the case, let's go out and tell them the good news. Then, we'll choose a time to refine our bodies with divine flames. Lung Ruoxue said hurriedly. She knew that the disheveled old man had been waiting for this day for a long time. Yes. The little fire spirit nodded. Then, the three of them left the bracelet together. After Lung Ruoxue and the other two walked out of the wooden house, they realized that there were many more exquisite houses around them. They did not need to guess to know that these were definitely built by Feng De and the others. Miss, why did you come out so quickly? Quiza's sharp eyes saw Lung Ruoxue and the other two, and she could not help but ask curiously. Chapter 1174, The Formation's Eye 2. Silly girl, you're still complaining that I came out too early. Lung Ruoxue laughed lightly as she teased. Miss, I didn't mean it that way. I thought you would be in seclusion for a long time before coming out. Suizhu quickly explained, afraid that Miss would misunderstand her. Ha! You're indeed a silly girl, little Shui. Was just joking with you. Bing Yao smiled. Then he walked to Lung Ruoxue's side and said with a charming face, Little Shui, have you thought of a way to unseal the seal? No, I came out for other things. Lung Ruoxue laughed. What's the matter? Bing Yao asked curiously. At this moment, Feng De and the rest had gathered around and were looking at Lung Ruoxue with question marks on their faces. The little fire spirit has thought of a way to improve the disheveled old man's life flame. Lung Ruoxue laughed lightly. The reason why she said that it was the little fire spirit's idea was also because the Ning family was here. She didn't want to explain too much. Really? This is great. Lu Feng looked excitedly at the little fire spirit in Lung Ruoxue's arms. His gaze was so hot that it was as if he was about to skin the little fire spirit alive. In comparison, the disheveled old man was much calmer. Yes, but it'll be very painful. Rotten old man, you must be able to bear it. The little fire spirit reminded him. Even with him around, the body tempering process with divine fire was still painful. However, he could at least guarantee the safety of the disheveled old man's grandfather. I'm mentally prepared. The disheveled old man nodded. Their words confused Master Ning, but there was no one to clear his doubts at this time. Then let's choose a time and start. The little fire spirit said after some thought. Can we do it now? Although the disheveled old man looked calm on the surface, he was actually very nervous deep down. Sure. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Bing Yao, you're more familiar with this place. Help them find a quiet place. Lung Ruoxue said to Bing Yao. All right, follow me. Bing Yao nodded. Please reading on OIB oxen. Oh, come, you all wait here. Don't send too many people, just me, the demon, first elder, Mo Yen Lu Feng, and the old ancestor will do. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Refining one's body with divine flame was equivalent to advancing one's cultivation realm, so she was more afraid of being disturbed. Furthermore, she did not want too many people to see the disheveled old man in pain, so it was enough for the few of them to stay by his side. Yes. No one had any objections to this. After all, they wouldn't be of much help even if they went. Then, Bing Yao brought Lung Ruoxue and the rest around a few corners and arrived at a cave. This cave was extremely dry and refreshing. It was about 2 meters high and extremely spacious. When Lung Ruoxue saw this place, she nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, she gave the little fire spirit and the disheveled old man a look. The two of them then sat down cross-legged facing each other and prepared to start cultivating their bodies. The little fire spirit extended its fair and tender little hands and conjured a few spells in the air. Immediately after, the disheveled old man's body burst into flames. In the blink of an eye, the flames turned into a sea of fire, enveloping the disheveled old man within. The flame was controlled by the little fire spirit. It could be big or small, and the temperature could be high or low. However, no matter what the situation was, it was still painful for the disheveled old man. After all, the fire was really burning his body. The bone-piercing pain made him cry out in pain. Ah! The disheveled old man cried out in pain, causing the few people present to feel sorry for him. This was too cruel. Moreover, this was not quite the same as the divine fire body tempering that they knew. The divine fire body tempering that they knew was to fuse the divine flames. However, the current situation was clearly the little fire spirit using the fire to burn the disheveled old man. In other words, the disheveled old man was being burned inside and out by the scorching flames. However, since this was the Flame King's method, they could only keep their doubts to themselves for the time being, no matter how many questions they had. He's so pitiful. Let's burn him a little longer. This person, under Lung Ruoxue's glare, Bing Yao could not finish his sentence. However, everyone understood what he meant because that was what they were thinking right now. So, we must believe in the little fire spirit's method. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Other than this, she didn't have any other methods. However, the methods that the little fire spirit knew of were indeed quite frightening. She just didn't know what the effects would be after refining her physique. Yes, yes. Bing Yao nodded and shut his mouth. After a long while, the flames on the disheveled old man's body gradually became smaller. As the little fire spirit cast a spell, the flames gradually extinguished. At this moment, the disheveled old man's entire body was charred black. However, his eyes were still closed and he was completely unaware of his own condition. Sister, this is only the first time. There will be more. Before anyone could say anything, the little fire spirit quickly explained. Oh! Lung Ruoxue and the rest nodded. However, no one asked any more questions in case they disturbed the person who was cultivating his physique. After waiting for a while, the little fire spirit started its second round of body tempering. As it cast its magic art, the disheveled old man's body caught on fire again. This time, the fire was even bigger than the first time. Even though Lung Ruoxue and the rest were far away, they could still feel the scorching heat. They could not help but worry for the disheveled old man. Slowly, the disheveled old man's cries of pain reached everyone's ears. However, none of them could help. This made them anxious and worried for the disheveled old man. After an unknown period of time, the flames on the disheveled old man's body were finally retracted by the little fire spirit. Immediately after, the little fire spirit began the third body tempering of the disheveled old man. Just like that, he repeated this process countless times. A week later, when the little fire spirit retracted his flame for the last time, he also told Lung Ruoxue and the others that he had succeeded in body refinement. Now, the disheveled old man's life flame was already a divine flame. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest heard the news, they were elated. However, The disheveled old man still showed no signs of waking up. At this moment, his body was also wrapped in a huge, black, circular cocoon. Hence, they could not see the disheveled old man's current state. The only thing they could do was to wait for the disheveled old man to wake up on his own. Chapter 1175. The Formations I-3. A day later. The disheveled old man broke out of his cocoon and finally woke up. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest saw the disheveled old man's appearance after he woke up, they could not help but be shocked. This was because none of them had expected that the divine flame that the little fire spirit had mentioned would actually have the effect of beautifying one's body. The disheveled old man in front of them had become at least 10 years younger. Right now, he looked to be in his early 40s at most. This was simply too unbelievable. Ha! My life flame is finally at the divine flame level. The first thing the disheveled old man did when he woke up was to check on his natal flame. When he saw that his natal flame had advanced as he wished, he could not help but jump up in joy. After feeling happy for a while, he then realized that Leng Ruoxue and the others were looking at him strangely. Girls, why are you looking at me like that? The disheveled old man asked in confusion. There was even a hint of fear on his face. See for yourself. Leng Ruoxue took out a mirror from her bangle and passed it to the disheveled old man. Arg, who's this? The disheveled old man took the mirror and looked at it. He could not help but exclaim. Of course it's you. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. However, from the corner of her eyes, she saw that the little fire spirit was on the verge of fainting. She quickly ran over and hugged the others. Little fire spirit. Leng Ruoxue called out softly. Seeing this, the rest of the people surrounded her and looked at the little fire spirit with concern. Sister, I'm fine. I just want to sleep. The little fire spirit said in a half-awake state. It was too tired. Little fire spirit, thank you. Have a good rest. The disheveled old man said gratefully. He was so happy that he forgot about the little fire spirit after his body refinement was successful. Damn it. He felt a little guilty. Yes, you'll be fine after a nap. After the little fire spirit finished speaking, it closed its eyes and fell asleep. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue immediately placed the little spirit fire into the bracelet and handed it to Green Vessel. Then, the few of them returned to their residence together. Miss, you're finally back. We were so worried. When Fengde and the rest saw Leng Ruoxue and the others, they quickly surrounded them. Please reading on OIB Oxen. Oh, come, I'm sorry to have made everyone worry about me. The disheveled old man said apologetically. From Leng Ruoxue's words, he found out that he had used up close to 10 days to temper his body with divine flames. Oh, for you. Fengde and the others looked at the middle-aged man who spoke and asked in confusion. This person looked a little familiar. I'm a rotten old man. The disheveled old man rolled his eyes and said speechlessly. He suspected that these people were doing this on purpose. So, were they just teasing him? However, he had really wronged Fengde and the others this time because they did not expect that the disheveled old man would become younger after his body was refined by the divine flame. Therefore, they naturally did not think that way. Arg! It can't be? Fengde and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. They thought to themselves, isn't it body tempering with divine flames? Could it be that it had changed to divine fire beauty treatment? If you don't believe me, you can ask the girl and see if I'm the one. The disheveled old man pouted his lips and said with an aggrieved look. Young miss. Fengde and the rest turned their gazes towards Leng Ruoxue and called out softly. He's the rotten old man. Leng Ruoxue said with certainty. However, she was laughing to herself inside. Wasn't it just that the rotten old man had become a little younger? Did they have to have such a big reaction? Then what should we call him in the future? What's wrong? Fengde asked dumbly. He couldn't call the old man anymore, could he? He did not expect the young old man to be so handsome. However, he was not as good-looking as him. Of course, I'm called rotten old man. The disheveled old man said hurriedly. He felt that this form of address was familiar. If he were to change it to something else, he would not be used to it. Congratulations, old man. Seeing the disheveled old man in a bad mood, The old man rejoiced in a weird tone. There's no need to congratulate me. You guys go ahead, I'll go back to my room and try out this Lives Origin Divine Flame. After the disheveled old man finished speaking, he whizzed away. Then, he entered his room. Why is this old man so restless? Linjiang could not help but tease the disheveled old man when he saw how anxious he was. Just understand him. Lung Qingtian said with a smile. After waiting for so long, his natal flame had finally advanced. Anyone would be excited. Miss, do you want to celebrate tonight? Fengde asked expectantly. They hadn't celebrated for a long time, and today was a good reason to have a big meal. Okay, go and prepare. Lung Ruoxue nodded. All right. Yes, Fengde replied. After that, he took Lin Yuan and the others to prepare dinner. They were busy for 2 hours and finally prepared the food for dinner. At night, everyone was happy and lively for the whole night. It was not until the next morning that their spirits slowly dissipated and they went back to their rooms to rest. After that, Lun Ruoxue hid in the purple bamboo house and focused on studying the seal's formation. Time passed. Very quickly, a month's time passed. For the past month, Lung Ruoxue had not left the purple bamboo house at all. Every day, she would stare at the miniature sealing formation in a daze. When she got tired of it, she would study other formations. Even though she was still unable to unseal the formation, her attainments in the field of formations had improved by quite a bit. She had also learned from some of her master's records that there were 2 conditions to unseal this sealing array. One was to destroy all the trapped vengeful spirits in the array, and the other was to find the array eye of the sealing array. She had already fulfilled the first condition a long time ago. However, she had not been able to find the formation's eye in the second condition. Moreover, there were no hints in her master's records. Therefore, she had been searching for the formation's eye for the past month. She had tested it many times on the miniature sealing formation. However, the formation's eye was always hidden and refused to show itself. This made Lung Ruoxue feel a little annoyed. She knew that she shouldn't continue searching in her current state. Otherwise, not only would she find nothing, but it would also affect her mood. With this thought, she turned and left the purple bamboo house. Lung Ruoxue walked over to the demon who was still sitting on the stone chair and sat beside him. No harvest. The demon understood. I didn't find the formation core. Lung Ruoxue asked, feeling a little depressed. Chapter 1176, The Formation's Eye 4. Don't push yourself too hard. We're not in a hurry to leave this place. It's not bad to cultivate here. The demon laughed as he consoled her. He didn't want Xue to give him too much pressure because she was in a hurry to bring everyone out of here. And accompany me for a walk. Lung Ruoxue requested. All right, he said. The demon nodded. Then, the 2 of them took out the bracelets together. When Fengde and the others saw them outside the room, they did not go forward to ask about the situation of breaking the seal. Instead, they continued to do their own things. Lung Ruoxue and the demon held hands as they walked around the large area. Then they found a huge green rock by the river and sat down. That huge rock was close to 2 meters tall. It was squarish and its surface was extremely smooth and flat. Lung Ruoxue sat on it and leaned against the evildoer's chest. She looked down from above and observed the place as far as she could see. The space enclosed by the sealing formation was not very large. Besides, other than a wooden house, a few stone chairs, and a stone table, the only decoration was probably this large green stone. Generally speaking, the array core was hidden in the array and operated with the array. She had tried many times on the miniature seal array but found nothing. However, she naturally did not doubt the effectiveness of the miniature array. After all, the miniature array was a miniature of the entire seal array. The effect of undoing the array on it was the same as undoing the array on the seal array. Could this huge green rock that she was sitting on be the formation's eye? Lung Ruoxue pondered to herself as countless thoughts ran through her mind. Although she was suspicious of the stone, she did not find anything suspicious after careful observation. Then she turned her eyes to other places. She had ruled out the huge green stone, so there was only the wooden house and the stone table and chairs in the yard. She didn't know if these things had existed before Bing Yao came, or if he had built them himself. At the thought of this, Leng Ruoxue called Bing Yao over. "Senior brother, what do you have here?" Leng Ruoxue asked calmly. "Please reading on AB Oxen Oh. Come little Shui. Oh, when I came here, this place was exactly what you saw. I didn't touch anything. However, after you guys came, there were more houses here." Bing Yao said after some thought. "Oh." Leng Ruoxue nodded. Since she had set the eye of the array outside the array, then the wooden house and the stone table and chairs in the courtyard had become her biggest suspects. "Little Shui, why are you asking this?" Bing Yao asked curiously. "I'm looking for the formation's eye," Leng Ruoxue replied. "Formation core? Shouldn't the formation's core be together with the formation? Why are you thinking about the house and the tables and chairs?" Bing Yao asked in confusion. "Because I couldn't find the formation's eye in the formation, so I could only target them." Leng Ruoxue said innocently, her beautiful eyes looking past Bing Yao to observe her target. Bing Yao and the demon saw how focused she was and did not disturb her, only staying by her side silently. Leng Ruoxue's gaze shifted from the stone table to the stone chair, but she didn't feel any difference. Then, she turned her gaze back to the wooden house. The wooden house did not look big from the outside, but it was a completely different world inside. It was complete, and there was a faint trace of spiritual energy in the wooden house. Spiritual qi? The spiritual qi in this wooden house was very rich. However, this was because there was a spirit gathering array in the wooden house. As a result, the spiritual qi in this place had also become rich. Spirit gathering array. All of a sudden, Leng Ruoxue had an idea. As if she had thought of something, she exclaimed, "Woof." Then, he stood up from the huge green rock and ran straight to the wooden house. After entering the wooden house, Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes scanned her surroundings. After a long time, her beautiful face revealed a smile that could topple cities. "What's wrong? Is there anything unusual about this wooden house?" Bing Yao and the demon asked in unison. "There's a spirit gathering array in this wooden house, right?" Leng Ruoxue asked instead of answering. "Yes, operating the ceiling formation requires the support of a large amount of spiritual energy. That's why Master specially set up a spiritual energy gathering formation here." Bing Yao replied. "That's right. In fact, this wooden house is not only a spirit gathering array. It is also the array eye of the entire ceiling array. All this time, I have been looking for the array eye in the miniature ceiling array, but the array eye was not on the ceiling array." Leng Ruoxue explained. "But this wooden house can't possibly be the formation's eye, right?" Bing Yao asked suspiciously. Even though he didn't know much about formations, he had heard of them before. He had never seen anyone whose formation's eye was not on the formation. Moreover, he had been sleeping in this room all this time. If this room was really the formation's eye, then he would be sleeping in the formation's eye. Just thinking about it was terrifying. "Why not?" Leng Ruoxue. "I've never heard of it," Bing Yao said matter-of-factly. Chapter 1177, The Territory Plan, 1. Just because you've never heard of it doesn't mean it's impossible. Besides, not everyone can set up the formation's eye outside the formation. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. "That's true. Master's attainments in formations are unparalleled, but I still think it's a little too far-fetched." Bing Yao was still in disbelief. "Since you still don't believe me, then let's try," Leng Ruoxue suggested with a smile. "Yes." Bing Yao nodded. "As the saying goes, what you hear is false, but what you see is true. If one had not seen it with their own eyes, it would be very difficult to believe such a mysterious thing." Then, the three of them left the wooden house. Leng Ruoxue stood in front of the wooden house. She kept on releasing the hand seals from her white and tender fingertips. When Feng Da and the rest saw this, they were also attracted over. However, they were tactful and did not say a word to avoid disturbing Leng Ruoxue. As for the method of unsealing the seal, she had tested it many times on the miniature array, so she had long memorized it by heart. As he cast over 1,000 spells, the wooden house was gradually enveloped by a white light. Slowly, the wooden house was completely submerged in the white light. All Leng Ruoxue had to do next was wait. After a long time, the dazzling white light finally disappeared. Without the spirit-gathering formation that was set up with the wooden house as the center, the spiritual qi in this place gradually became less and less. However, the seal formation that had been blocking them had also disappeared, and the scenery outside was fully displayed in front of them. Where is this place? Feng De and the others widened their eyes and were stunned again. How could they be on the top of a nameless mountain? Without the protection of the seal, the cold wind from the surroundings directly blew on them. Everyone couldn't help but shiver and ran into the wooden houses at the same time. It's so cold. What the hell is this place? Everyone could not help but complain. Originally, with the protection of the seal formation, this place was as warm as spring and the scenery was pleasant. However, once the seal formation disappeared, the real situation here was presented before everyone's eyes. This place was not just any ordinary cold. Please reading on NB Oxen O. If I'm not wrong, this place shouldn't be far from that 10,000-year-old snow mountain. Master Ning said happily. Little guy, you're right. We're only 1,000 meters away from the 10,000-year-old snow mountain. Bing Yao explained, but the words, little guy, angered Master Ning again. Damn it, I told you not to call me little guy. Master Ning jumped up and down, shouting at the top of his voice, not caring about his image. As for his subordinates, they all lowered their heads and did not dare to look at their master. In my eyes, you're just a little guy. Bing Yao said innocently. Shui, your senior brother is bullying me. He's really rude. Master Ning ignored Bing Yao and turned to Leng Ruoxue to complain. Let's discuss the next step of our plan. Leng Ruoxue changed the topic. The two of them gave her a headache, so it was better for her not to get involved in their conflict. Little Shui, what are your thoughts? Bing Yao asked with a smile. You're the senior brother, of course I have to listen to you. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Actually, she didn't have any other thoughts. She just didn't want the two of them to quarrel, so she just said it casually. I think we should find a place to settle down. We can't always be on the godly mainland. Bing Yao thought for a while and couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, little fox. He actually said he didn't have any thoughts? He was really cunning. There's nothing wrong with the 4 seas being your home. At the very least, if we provoke a powerful enemy, they won't be able to find us. Leng Ruoxue retorted with a smile. Yes, what Miss said makes sense. Feng De and the rest immediately agreed while the evildoer and the rest looked at Leng Ruoxue with smiles. Little Shui, there's no way we can gain a foothold in the divine realm if we run around everywhere. Many great powers would not be willing to cooperate with us. Bing Yao reminded. It doesn't matter. As long as we have the strength, no one will dare to look down on us. Leng Ruoxue asked nonchalantly. Wasn't strength the most important thing in the immortal realm? Since that was the case, wouldn't it be enough for them to have the strength? That's not the same. Although strength is important, territory is equally important. Otherwise, why do you think the 8 great divine domains have such great power in the divine realm? It was because they occupied a large territory. As long as a top-notch force doesn't have a fixed territory, it's not easy for them to establish themselves in the divine realm. Bing Yao explained. That sounds reasonable, but all the better places on the godly mainland have been occupied. What else can we get? Leng Ruoxue asked again. Her beautiful face seemed to be in a dilemma. The godly mainland is not small. Although most of the places have owners, little Shui, formations, so the location is not important to us. We just need to find a place that has no owner and is large enough. Bing Yao said after some thought. Is there such a place on the godly mainland? Leng Ruoxue had a look of suspicion. I've chosen a few places. Everyone can choose one of them. With that, Bing Yao took out a map of the godly land from his storage ring and showed it to everyone. The places marked with red dots are all occupied. We won't consider them for the time being. The few places I've chosen are all marked in blue. One is here. This is a wide plain. The area is very large and there are few people here. It's more suitable to be a territory, Bing Yao explained. And here, this is the northernmost part of the godly mainland. It's made up of 3 mountains and a forest. It's a huge area, but the forces here are more complicated. Other than the big clans that send people here to train and explore, the beasts here are the strongest on the godly mainland. And finally, this place. It's located at the southernmost part of the godly continent. It's warm all year round and the scenery isn't bad. It's the best of the 3 places I've chosen, but it's not as big as the first 2. It's a pity. Bing Yao continued. How could such a good place not be occupied? Leng Ruoxue asked in disbelief. Chapter 1178, The Territory Plan, 2. Little Shui, there's something you don't know. This place isn't very big, and it's quite far from the center of the divine continent. It's hard to get there, so the powerful forces don't even care about this place. The small forces can't occupy this place either, so as time goes by, this place became ownerless. Bing Yao said, Oh. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Little Shui, you can choose one of these 3 places to be our territory. After all, a power without a territory would not be able to truly establish itself in the divine realm. Bing Yao said with anticipation. Then let's do it here. Leng Ruoxue replied without hesitation. The situation here is very complicated. Bing Yao said helplessly. Just as he had expected, little Shui, had really chosen this place. This restless little girl. However, it was just what he wanted. What are you afraid of? With you around, what can't we do? Leng Ruoxue had put a high hat on Bing Yao. It was obvious that she wanted to be a hands-off manager again. Little Shui, you can't be so irresponsible. I'm just one person. Bing Yao quickly said. Don't be afraid. I'll get Feng Da and the others to help you. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. What about you? Bing Yao asked in a daze, his handsome face full of innocence. I'm here to watch the fun. Leng Ruoxue replied calmly. You can't just watch. Bing Yao protested. Why not? I've already lent you my subordinates, and you're still not satisfied. Leng Ruoxue teased. You're the head of the family. Bing Yao said softly. Only the head of the family can be a hands-off shopkeeper. The matters at home will naturally be left to you to run. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. For some reason, her words resonated with Master Ning's subordinates. Some of them even felt that she was right. All right then. Bing Yao accepted his fate. So, it seemed like the violent man was right. Little Shui, was a lazy person. Please reading on MYB Oxen Oval. After deciding on the location of their territory, everyone sat on the back of the little peacock and set off for their destination. After flying for almost half a month, they finally arrived at the place that Bing Yao had mentioned. As it was located in the northernmost part of the godly continent, the temperature here was slightly lower than the other places. Looking down from the sky, they saw 3 towering mountains, and a large, lush forest surrounded the 3 mountains. Shui, although this place is a little remote, it's backed by mountains and forests. It's easy to defend and hard to attack. The resources are also rich. It's a good place. I'll be perfect if we can conquer the surrounding cities. Master Ning said after a moment of silence. There are a total of 5 cities closest to this place, all of which belong to small families. Those 5 cities are also the only way to this place, so naturally, they have to be subdued. Bing Yao said matter-of-factly. In fact, the territory he mentioned included the 5 cities, but he didn't say it out loud. Since that's the case, he'll subdue all 5 cities at the same time. Leng Ruoxue agreed. Little Shui, these 5 small cities are the Dark Wind City, Fuliu City, Northern Yen City, Southern Yen City, and Linjiang City. The Northern Yen City and Southern Yen City belong to the same family, and this family can be considered the most powerful among these small forces. Why don't we start with them? Bing Yao suggested. You decide for yourself, you're the one running the errand. Leng Ruoxue's focus was on participation. As for running errands, she would naturally leave it to her senior brother Bing Yao. After hearing Leng Ruoxi's words, Bing Yao smiled bitterly and gloomily, while Feng De and the rest laughed to themselves. Let's first go to Yanbei City to take a look, Bing Yao said helplessly. When he said that he wanted to take a look, he didn't mean it was just a casual look. Yes. Everyone nodded. Then, the little peacock turned around and headed toward the direction of northern Yan City. Yanbei City was an unremarkable small city in the northernmost part of the godly continent. It was unremarkable because its area was too small. However, as the saying goes, relying on the mountains to survive, because of the mountains and forests behind it, Yanbei City was very rich. The economy of the city was quite developed. Although there was still a big gap between it and the big cities, its prosperity was definitely one of the best among the small and medium-sized cities. After paying the entrance fee, Leng Ruoxue and the others walked on the streets of northern Yan City. Looking at the bustling pedestrians and the shops on both sides of the street, the crowd could not help but sigh. For a small city to be able to have such a prosperous economy, it was clear that the city lord had put in a lot of effort. The total permanent population of Yanbei City was less than 1 million. However, Yanbei City received nearly 10 million people every day. Among those people, nearly 90% were foreigners. Therefore, there were many inns in Yanbei City. It could be said that one could see an inn after taking 2 or 3 steps, and almost every one of them was fully occupied. Leng Ruoxue and the rest chose a slightly larger inn to stay in. Due to the limited number of rooms in the inn, they had to share a room with 5 people. However, this was nothing to cultivators. Once they became deities, they could forget about sleeping. After settling down, Feng De and the rest split into 3 groups and went to the city to gather information. Leng Ruoxue and the demon stayed in the inn. In the bracelet, Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer leaned on each other and did not speak for a long time. However, deep affection surrounded the two. Shui, you've already planned to find a territory, right? The demon said. Well, I can't hide anything from you. Actually, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if I have a fixed residence or not. However, I have to think about those people on the Haotian continent. Since they have followed me, I can't let them wander around and be bullied after coming to the godly land. If we have a fixed territory, it will be easier for them to find us. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. However, you're really bad to let Bing Yao handle this matter. The demon laughed evilly. This was his suggestion. Although I like it, I can't be too obvious. After all, there are still outsiders here. Leng Ruoxue sighed. The outsiders she was referring to were naturally Master Ning's subordinates. Although Master Ning was her godfather and she had acknowledged him, this did not mean that she would acknowledge his subordinates. Chapter 1179, The Territory Plan, 3. Then how do you plan to conquer these 5 small cities? Kill all the city lords? The demon asked curiously. Subdue those that can be subdued, kill those that can't be subdued. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. She was a good child and would not kill people easily. Those who were killed by her would naturally have a reason to be killed. The city lords of these cities have occupied this place for many years. They must have some tricks up their sleeves. The demon said. Moreover, the place we've set our eyes on is famous for being a dangerous place on the divine mainland. Otherwise, these small cities would have changed owners a long time ago. The demon added. How dangerous is it? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Although that place is surrounded by tall mountains, the forest in the mountains is the main body. It is called the Nightmare Forest. From the name alone, you can imagine that it is very dangerous. The demon explained with a smile. As for how dangerous it was, of course, Shui had to experience it herself. A nightmare and an illusion? Since it's so dangerous there, why are there so many people taking the risk? Aren't they playing with their lives? Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. She had always thought that the bigger the head, the bigger the hat. Trying to put on a brave front would only cost her life. Isn't there a saying that wealth comes from danger? The more dangerous a place is, the greater the opportunity. Since that's the case, It's naturally incomparably attractive, and those who take the risk, how many of them don't want to get lucky? The demon explained. This should be considered a common disease of humans. In my opinion, he's clearly looking for death, Leng Ruoxue said disdainfully. If one wanted a good opportunity, they had to see if they had the life to enjoy it. Otherwise, it was no different from seeking death. As the two of them were chatting, Qin Ju appeared in front of them and said, "Sister, Fengde and the others are back." "Oh." Leng Ruoxue nodded and brought the evildoer out of the bracelet. In the living room, Fengde and Bing Yao were already waiting for them. "Senior brother, Fengde, you're back so soon?" Leng Ruoxue was a little surprised. "Shui, a small matter has happened." Bing Yao chuckled, very happy. "Please reading on OIB Oxen. Oh, come, you're still so happy when something happened? Could it be that this matter is beneficial to us?" Leng Ruoxue said. Yes. Bing Yao nodded. "Then don't keep me in suspense, tell me what's the matter." Leng Ruoxue urged. "Miss Wuhe Green Peach has been captured." Fengde said directly. "Who took her?" Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. "By a big pervert. I wasn't there at the time, otherwise I would have cut him into 8 pieces. He dared to capture my woman, he's really courting death." Fengde said indignantly, but he wasn't too worried. After all, it wasn't easy to take advantage of his green peach. He was captured by the city lord's young master. We were not present at that time. However, I heard from the onlookers that the city lord's young master took a fancy to Wu's beauty, so he took him and Lu Tao back to the city lord's mansion. Bing Yao said, gloating. However, he did not deny that the city lord's son had good taste, because Wu was indeed a beauty that men could not refuse. "What do you mean by falling for Wu's beauty?" "That city lord's young master is clearly falling for my family's Lu Tao's beauty." Fengde explained with a little dissatisfaction. After hearing Fengde's words, Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. "It turns out that you don't care about Wuhe Green Peach being captured, but who the city lord's young master wants to capture." She was really speechless. Couldn't her subordinates, thinking be more normal? There was also the poor Wu. After the incident with Evildoer and Ling, she wanted to turn Wu back into a man, but she realized that she could not. She asked Qin Ju and found out that there was a time limit for her transformation, and the time limit was at least 3 months. Therefore, Wu had to live as a woman for 3 months. There was still about a month left before Wu could turn back into a man. However, Wu was snatched away by a lecherous man. Wu must be depressed to death at this time. No matter whose beauty they have taken a fancy to, in short, it is a fact that they have been captured by the city lord's son. Let's discuss how to make use of this matter. Bing Yao said excitedly. He was just thinking of a reason to break into the city lord's mansion. This really didn't take any effort at all. What kind of person is the city lord? Leng Ruoxue asked after hearing what Bing Yao said. "Miss, I heard that the city lord is a good person and has a good management. Otherwise, this little Yanbei city would not be so prosperous. The people in the city are very supportive of him." Fengde told him everything he knew. A good person? The definition of a good person was very broad. Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly and turned her gaze to Bing Yao. Northern Yan City and Southern Yan City belong to the Yan family. The Yan family has established their main family in Southern Yan City. The Lord of Northern Yan City is the younger brother of the current Yan family head. However, the Lord of Northern Yan City is a concubine's son. As for the young master of the city lord, his background is also very suspicious. Bing Yao chuckled, his handsome face filled with mystery. "How many cities does the Yan clan own?" Leng Ruoxue. "Only 2. In the divinity, there are countless small clans like the Yan clan." Bing Yao said, "Since the Yan family only has 2 cities, why would the head of the Yan family let a younger brother born of a concubine become the lord of a city? Or is he very confident that this younger brother's prestige won't overshadow his, the head of the family?" Leng Ruoxue was confused. The city lord of Northern Yan City was decided by the previous clan head, their father. Therefore, even if the current Yan clan head wants to object, he has no chance. Furthermore, after the Yen clan head became the clan head, his illegitimate younger brother has already gained a firm foothold in northern Yen City and is deeply loved by the people. Thus, even if the Yen clan head wants to use any despicable means, he will not have the chance. Bing Yao explained. Oh. Leng Ruoxue finally understood. Furthermore, there is more than one young master in Yanbei City. However, the one he loves the most is the one who snatched Wu He Green Peach away. Bing Yao chuckled. Senior brother, what are you going to do? Leng Ruoxue asked with an evil smile. Chapter 1180, The Territory Plan, 4, Shui. We'll have to ask that cheapskate ancestor of yours to handle this matter first. I've heard that the other son of the city lord of Yanbei City is quite talented in forging artifacts. Bing Yao suggested. It's just a small clan, is there a need to go through so much trouble? Wouldn't it be easier for you to just charge into the city lord's mansion and save them? Leng Ruoxue suggested with a smile. That's not right. The lord of Yanbei City is very prestigious among the people. If we use force to obtain this city, those permanent residents will not be convinced by us. Moreover, this lord can be considered a talent in management. With him around, we can worry less in the future, right? Bing Yao said as he rolled his eyes at Leng Ruoxue. He thought to himself, this little fox clearly didn't plan to use force to occupy this city, but she still said that on purpose. How despicable! That makes sense. Then let's let the cheap ancestor take action. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. In fact, if she wanted to occupy a city, it was not enough to just rely on martial arts. What she wanted was someone who could continue to manage the city in the future. Therefore, unless she had no choice, she would not attack the city lord. At the same time, in the guest room of the city lord's mansion, Wu Zheng was pacing back and forth like an ant on a hot nest. Can you please stop loitering around? I'm getting dizzy. He leaned back comfortably on the recliner and kept nibbling on the green peach fruit. He sighed helplessly. Wu Zhen was not calm at all. I'm very annoyed. Wu said, a little depressed. What's there to be annoyed about? Miss will come and save us. Lu Tao said disapprovingly. I will definitely save him, but I don't know when. He was clear that their capture to the city lord's mansion was a once-in-lifetime opportunity for Leng Ruoxue and the others. How could those cunning foxes let it go? He didn't want to face someone who would pester him every day. What was even more infuriating was that the person was a stinky man. Although he was a woman now, he was a real man in his bones. He felt disgusted just thinking about how he could endure a man's attention. So, Stinky Shui, it was all her fault. Calm down. There's good food and drinks here. Let's just treat it as a vacation. Lu Tao consoled, her heart filled with sympathy for Wu, but unfortunately, she was unable to help. I can't stay calm. If you're being pestered by a stinky man, you'll understand how I feel. Wu roared in anger. Wu, do you understand how I feel? I am a real woman, but my charm isn't even half as good as you, a fake woman. How am I supposed to face this? I feel inferior in front of you. Lu Tao said half-truthfully. Of course, she was not feeling inferior, but she was really depressed. Looking at Wu, who could cause the downfall of a city, which man would not be moved. Then let's switch. Let that stinky man pester you, and don't bother me. Wu suggested. Please reading on OIB oxen. Oh. Wu, your wish is good, but reality is cruel, because that guy has fallen for you. As for me, he also said that if you agree to marry him, he will be kind enough to let me be his bed-warming servant. Otherwise, I am not even worthy of being his bed-warming servant. Lu Tao reminded. These words were personally said by the city lord's son. Although she really wanted to beat up this self-sentimental guy after hearing it, she also knew that now was not the time. However, there would always be an opportunity and she was not in a hurry. Someone's coming, shush. Suddenly, Wu made a shushing gesture and the two of them immediately stopped talking. In the study of the city lord's mansion, the city lord Yan Kuan was in his study dealing with official business. However, he suddenly received a report from his subordinate that someone wanted to meet him. He opened the note that his subordinate had handed him, and his eyes widened in disbelief. He then asked anxiously, "Where is he?" "Wait outside the door." The subordinate reported. "Damn it, hurry up and invite him in," Yen Kun said in a slightly annoyed manner. "Yes." The subordinate turned to leave, but was stopped by Yen Kun. "Wait, I'll invite him personally. Go find the second young master and ask him to come to the living room. There's an important guest here," Yen Kun ordered. After that, he hurried to the gate of the city lord's mansion and invited the guest into the main hall. "Your Excellency Leng Xiaoyu, I really didn't expect that you would come to our northern Yen city, hee. Your arrival has really brought glory to our city lord's mansion, and I'm very lucky." Looking at Leng Xiaoyu, who was sitting opposite him, Yen Kun was so excited that he forgot himself and was incoherent. Chapter 1181, The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction, 1. City Lord is too kind, I'm just a small blacksmith. Leng Xiaoyu said disapprovingly. "Hee, you're too humble," Yen Kun said with a smile, but he couldn't help but wonder in his heart, is there a little blacksmith that everyone in the divine continent knows? Furthermore, even in the divine realm, Leng Xiaoyu was quite famous. Who asked her to have a master who was the deputy president of the Armament Guild headquarters and was also a talented armament refining genius. After hearing Yen Kun's words, Leng Xiaoyu smiled but did not say anything. Her starry eyes kept sizing up City Lord Yen. City Lord Yen looked to be about 50 years old. Although he was approaching his middle age, it was not hard to tell that he was a handsome young man when he was young. Although he was only a mid-level deity, he had a shrewd and capable look. "Father, do we have a guest?" Suddenly, a clear voice entered Leng Xiaoyu's ears. She could not help but raise her head and see a young man walking in from the door. The young man was about 20 years old and had a handsome face. Although he was only the young master of a small family, he had a calm and magnanimous appearance. His strength had already reached the middle level of the early divine realm. It was clear that Yen Kun had spent a lot of effort on him. This young man should be the city lord Yen Kun's second son, the one with the talent for refining weapons. Leng Xiaoyu thought to herself, but she looked at Bing Yao who had come with her without saying anything. Then, a faint smile appeared on her handsome face. "Is this the city lord's son?" Leng Xiaoyu asked despite knowing the answer. It's my son. Tao quickly come and greet Her Excellency Leng Xiaoyu." Yen Kun introduced with a smile. Yen Tao greets Xiaoyu. When Yen Tao heard his father's words, he suppressed his excitement and bowed to Leng Xiaoyu respectfully. "Young Master Yen, you are too polite," Leng Xiaoyu said politely as she looked at the young man who was full of admiration. You might not know this, but my son has loved refining weapons since he was young. Therefore, he has a special admiration for you. It's just that he has never had the chance to meet you," Yen Kun explained with a smile. Although he really wanted to ask Leng Xiaoyu to stay in Yenbei City for a few more days, he was afraid that it would be too abrupt and would make her unhappy. "Oh, City Lord, I will be staying in northern Yen City for a few days. If young Master Yen is free, you can come to the inn and look for me. I can also give you some pointers," Leng Xiaoyu said, taking advantage of the situation. "That's great. Thank you, Miss Xiaoyu." Yen Kun was overjoyed. If he could get close to Leng Xiaoyu, then his son would not be bullied in the city lord's mansion in the future. Yen Tao thanks Lady Xiaoyu for her love. Yen Tao was so excited that his eyes were filled with admiration for Leng Xiaoyu. "Young Master Yen, you don't have to be so polite. It's nothing." Leng Xiaoyu was very calm. "Please reading on Mbiox no. Actually, I've come here to ask for a favor from the city lord," Leng Xiaoyu said with a troubled expression. "If there's anything you need, just say it. As long as it's within my power, I'll do my best," Yen Kun said with great sincerity. "It's like this, 2 of my juniors were robbed on the streets yesterday, so I want to ask City Lord Yen to help me find them. I don't know if this matter will make things difficult for City Lord Yen?" Leng Xiaoyu said, a little embarrassed. The reason why they had only come to the city lord's residence a day later was to make the city lord feel that they had no one to look for, and had come to him for help. Who's so bold as to steal a junior from Lady Xiaoyu? Yan Kun couldn't help but be shocked and ask in disbelief. I don't know him either. I heard from an insider that the one who snatched him was a young master. He even said that he was some tyrant of northern Yen City. After all, we are outsiders, so we have no choice but to ask City Lord Yen for help. Leng Xiaoyu said helplessly, his extremely handsome face showing his depression at the right time. Don't worry, Your Excellency Xiaoyu, I'll do my best to help you find the person. Yan Kun promised. However, he could not help but feel shocked, especially when Leng Xiaoyu mentioned the tyrant of Yanbei City. His uneasiness grew stronger and stronger. Then I'll thank the city lord first. Leng Xiaoyu smiled as she expressed her gratitude. You're too kind, Miss Xiaoyu. Yan Kun quickly said. After that, the two of them chatted for a while more before Leng Xiaoyu found an excuse and left with Bing Yao. After sending off Leng Xiaoyu and the other man, Yan Kun summoned the butler with a gloomy expression and ordered him to find the eldest young master. Father, could it be that you suspect Big Brother of doing this? And I guess. Who else could it be if not him? Other than him, who else would dare to do as they please in northern Yen City and call themselves a king? Yan Kun said, holding back his anger. In the past, he could turn a blind eye to his eldest son's actions. However, he couldn't do it now because his unfilial son had provoked Leng Xiaoyu. He even suspected that Leng Xiaoyu had already found out about this matter. Therefore, he had to deal with it properly. If it was really Big Brother's doing, what does father plan to do? Yen Tao could not help but ask. Of course, we'll hand him over to Her Excellency Leng Xiaoyu. Our Yen family cannot bring disaster to ourselves because of him. Yan Kun said coldly. In fact, he didn't say anything. For the future of his second son, he had to hand over his eldest son. This was also a way of showing his goodwill to the other party. Hearing his father's words, Yen Tao no longer spoke. Tao, don't you think that father is too heartless? Yan Kun looked at his second son and thought to himself, this child is too kind. No, I know father is doing this for my own good. After a moment of contemplation, Yen Tao said. His words also made Yan Kun feel quite comforted. It's good that you can understand father's painstaking efforts. Yan Kun let out a long sigh of relief. At this moment, the eldest young master, who had received the butler's order, also came to the living room unwillingly under the butler's supervision. Father, why are you looking for me? The Yen family's eldest young master asked unhappily as he sat down opposite Yan Kun. Unfilial son, did I let you sit down? Yan Kun said angrily when he saw his eldest son's rascally appearance. Father, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm very tired. The Yen family's eldest young master did not notice his father's anger and urged him on. Chapter 1182, The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction, 2. Unfilial Son. Kneel down. Yan Kun roared, but the young master of the Yen family did not take it seriously. He continued to do what he wanted and even picked up the fruit on the table to eat. Butler, make this unfilial son kneel down. Seeing that his eldest son didn't even take his words seriously, Yan Kun couldn't help but become even angrier. Yes, City Lord. The butler replied. Just as he was about to move, he was stopped by the Yen clan's eldest young master. Audacious slave, who dares to touch me? The Yen family's eldest young master glared at him and roared. Eldest young master, your subordinate apologizes. The butler said apologetically. Then he kicked the eldest young master's stomach. The eldest young master's knees gave way and he knelt on the ground. Dog slave, you dare to offend your superior? I am the young master of northern Yen City, and you dare to disrespect me. The Yen family's eldest young master said in anger. I'm sorry, young master. I'm only following the orders of the city lord. The butler didn't even look at the eldest young master as he spoke indifferently. Unfilial son, let me ask you, did you snatch people from the streets again? Yan Kun asked directly. So what if I am? It's their good fortune to be liked by me. Yan Kun said disapprovingly. TSK, he thought it was something big. It turned out that his father had called him over for such a trivial matter. This was really too much. Unfilial son, you're really audacious. You actually dare to rob anyone. You want our Yen family to be praised by you, don't you? Yen Kuan roared in anger. Father, please calm your anger. Yen Tao saw that his father's expression was not right and quickly comforted him. Master, please calm down. The butler quickly said. Only the Yen family's eldest young master was unconcerned. He casually said, Is it that serious? Father, you're exaggerating. Housekeeper, go and get the family law. Today, I will beat this unfilial son to death, so that he won't bring disaster to our Yen family. Yen Kuan was infuriated, especially when he saw the disapproving look on the young master's face. He was so angry that he couldn't keep this unfilial son of his alive any longer. Yes. The butler replied and turned to retrieve the family law. Please reading on MYB Oxen Oval. The so-called family discipline was nothing more than a tool used by the great families to carry out punishment. When the Yen family's eldest young master saw the stick in the housekeeper's hand, which was thicker than his arm, his face turned green with fear. It must be known that this was not an ordinary stick, but a holy weapon passed down in the family. It was also specially made by a blacksmith hired by his father for the use of family discipline. As far as he knew, many people who had violated the Yen family's rules had died under this stick. He did not want to be hit, nor did he want to be a dead soul under the stick. Execute, Yen Kuan said emotionlessly. The person he had offended this time was Leng Xiaoyu. For the good of the Yen family, he could not keep this son. Father, Father, I was wrong, mother. Help me. When the steward's staff landed on the Yen family's eldest young master, the young master let out an earth-shattering cry for help. Arg! It hurts so much, mother. Save me, father is going to kill me. The Yen clan's eldest young master howled. His howl had indeed attracted the attention of the servants, and some of them even went to inform the eldest young master's mother, the lady of the city. Not long after, the city lord's wife arrived. When she saw her son's bloodied body, the anger in her heart exploded. Without thinking, she rushed forward and gave Yen Tao a slap. Yen Tao, who had been slapped, did not say a word, nor did he dodge. His pair of starry eyes stared straight at the city lord's wife. Damn you little bastard, you didn't even help when you saw the city lord beating up your big brother. The city lord's wife didn't dare to blame the city lord, so she could only vent her anger on Yen Tao, this son of a concubine. I wonder how auntie would like me to help? Yen Tao sneered and questioned. How dare you? Is this how you speak to your elders? The city lord's wife bellowed. This was truly heaven-defying. Never in her dreams would she have thought that the second young master who had always been cautious in front of her would actually dare to question her. This made her feel that her authority had been challenged. If you want others to treat you as an elder, then you have to act like one. Otherwise, no one will respect you. Yen Kuan looked at Yen Tao with heartache and said in a cold tone. This woman was getting more and more out of control. He had tolerated her for so many years, but she kept challenging his bottom line. This was outrageous. What does the city lord mean? Are you blaming me for hitting your precious son? The city lord's wife asked. Isn't Tao your son? You gave him a slap the moment you came up, and you still want him to respect you? Yen Kuan sneered. Isn't that your son? How could you be so cruel? The city lord's wife retorted sarcastically, not showing any weakness. After she ran into the living room, the guests stopped the execution under the city lord's eye signal. I've pampered him too much in the past, and now he's caused an irreparable disaster. If I don't give him a good beating, how am I going to explain it to the other party? Yen Kuan said angrily. You have the final say in this northern Yen city. What kind of disaster can't be fixed? Obviously, the mayor's wife didn't believe Yen Kun's words. She even believed that Yen Kuan wanted to kill her son so that the little bastard could get the mayor's position. You really are a woman with long hair and short knowledge. I am merely the city lord of this little northern Yen city. In the entire divine continent and even the divine realm, There are many people that we cannot afford to offend. Do you really think that I, as the city lord, can do whatever I want? Yan Kuan mocked. What did that Chi'er do? I can't believe I made you so angry. After hearing Yan Kun's words, the mayor's wife's heart sank, but she also calmed down a bit. He snatched another woman yesterday. Yan Kuan glared at his unconscious eldest son and said, So what if I snatched a woman? At most, well, just let him go. The city lord's wife said disapprovingly. In the past, Chi'er had done this kind of thing many times. After the city lord found out, he only gave a small punishment, then gave the woman who was robbed some money and let her go. Therefore, she did not think that this kind of thing was a big deal. That's easy to say. Do you know whose girl he's snatching this time? Yan Kuan said angrily. Chapter 1183, The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction, 3. Who's that? The city lord's wife's face was full of question marks, her mind constantly turning back and forth, and secretly thought, could it be that the girl who was robbed had a very big background? If that was really the case, it was no wonder that the city lord would lose his temper. She's a junior of Her Excellency Leng Xiaoyu. Yan Kuan growled. Leng Xiaoyu? Which Leng Xiaoyu? The city lord's wife didn't react for a moment. How many Leng Xiaoyus can there be? Yan Kuan roared. City lord, are you sure it's that Leng Xiaoyu? Are you a fake? The mayor's wife had a look of disbelief on her face. If it was really the famous Leng Xiaoyu, why would she come to a small place like the northern Yan city? She really couldn't understand. Why don't you try pretending? Yan Kuan said in an unpleasant tone. What do we do now? Hearing Yan Kun's words, the city lord's wife had no idea what to do. Although she was used to being domineering at home, she would definitely be the first to panic if something serious happened. You're asking me, but who should I ask? Yan Kuan said with his eyes wide open. In fact, he had an idea in his heart, but he would not say it out easily. Father, the most important thing right now is to send back the girl that Big Brother snatched. Otherwise, if Lady Xiaoyu blames us, our entire Yan family can't afford to be punished. Yan Tao said calmly. Tao is right, but sending her back won't be enough to appease her anger. Yan Kuan said after a moment of silence. Master, what should we do? I only have one son, you have to save him. The city lord's wife pleaded with tears in her eyes. At this moment, she had long lost her strength and only had fear. Chi'er is my eldest son and the next city lord of Yanbei City. Do you think I would want something to happen to him? Yan Kuan sighed and said helplessly. Madam, since that girl was snatched by Chi'er, then it'll have to trouble you to personally release that girl. You're both women, so it's easy for you to talk to each other. This way, we can also show our sincerity. Yan Kuan said after thinking for a while. All right, master, I'll go now. After the city lord's wife finished speaking, she left the living room in a hurry, not even caring about her injured and unconscious son. Not long after the city lord's wife left, she came back dejectedly. Yan Kuan and his son looked at each other and understood. Please reading on OIB Oxno. Madam, why are you back so soon? Has that young lady settled down? Yan Kuan pretended to be confused. Master, I wanted to arrange for that girl to leave the city lord's mansion, but she still refused to do so. The city lord's wife said gloomily. Actually, she still had one more thing to say. Not only did she say some nice things, but she had also threatened and bribed him. Who knew that he would not be moved at all and would insist that the city lord uphold justice. What did the lady say? Yan Kuan asked anxiously. She asked you to seek justice. The Yan family must give her an explanation. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences. The city lord's wife said with an ashen face. She had always been a woman of her word in northern Yan City, but now, a little girl was not giving her any face. How could she not be angry from embarrassment? However, due to the other party's status, she had been holding back. Father, it seems like you have to make a trip down personally. After hearing the city lord's wife's words, Yan Tao spoke. Fine, I'll go and meet this girl. With that, Yan Kuan strode into the guest room. When he first saw Wu, the first thing he felt was beauty. She was too beautiful. No wonder his incompetent eldest son wanted to snatch her back to his residence. However, this was a thorny beauty. How could she be so easy to snatch? If it was not resolved properly, he was afraid that all his years of business would be destroyed in one day. This was something that he absolutely could not tolerate. I am the city lord of Yanbei City. May I know your name, young lady? Yen Kuan said in a friendly manner. How can my family's young lattice name be casually revealed to others? Wu did not say anything and just sat quietly on the chair. Lu Tao replied on his behalf. I've been presumptuous. Yen Kuan looked a little embarrassed. City lord, my family's young miss isn't that easy to snatch. I'm afraid you can't afford the price of snatching our young miss. Lu Tao did not waste any words and went straight to the point. Miss, please state your conditions. As long as it's within my power, I will not let you down. Yen Kuan said in a fawning manner. Oh really? Since that's the case, then hand over the pervert who stole my family's young miss. As for the other conditions, we'll let you know when we've thought of them. Lu Tao said after some thought. Master, you can't hand the chess pieces over to them. Upon hearing Lu Tao's words, the city lord's wife quickly said. She was very afraid that Yen Kuan would hand over his son in order not to offend Leng Xiaoyu. It seems that the city lord is not very sincere. Since that's the case, there's no need for us to continue our discussion. Lu Tao said with a hint of ridicule. You better shut up. How dare you threaten the city lord? I think you must be tired of living. Let me tell you the truth. Except for the few of us, no one knows that you are being imprisoned in the city lord's mansion. If we kill you, no one will know. So, you'd better be tactful. Don't blame me for being merciless if you annoy me. The city lord's wife couldn't help but threaten again. Her words made Yen Kun's face turn extremely ugly. This damn, stupid woman. At this time, Yen Kuan really wanted to strangle her. However, as the saying goes, dirty laundry should not be spread in public, so he didn't think it was a good time to deal with his first wife. However, he also couldn't let his blind wife offend the two women in front of him. However, before he could open his mouth, Green Peach spoke first. Is the city lord's wife threatening us? If we were to lose even a single strand of hair, I'm afraid that the entire Yanbei city would be buried with us. That's right. I forgot to tell you that the other young lady in my family is the goddaughter of the current Ning clan head in the divine realm. Hearing Lu Tao's words, Yen Kun's heart, which was already in a state of panic, thumped even harder. All of a sudden, he sank to the bottom of the valley. At this time, he also had the heart to die. Wasn't it enough to offend Leng Xiaoyu? Now, the master of the Ning family was involved as well. Did he want to die? The Ning clan was a great crocodile of the divine realm. How could a small clan like them afford to provoke them? Chapter 1184. The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction 4. When the City Lord's wife heard Lu Tao's words, she was obviously stunned. Then she laughed wildly and said, Little girl, you're quite good at guessing. If you're the goddaughter of the master of the Ning family, then I'm the goddaughter of the divine master. Obviously, the city lord's wife didn't believe Lu Tao's words, but Lu Tao didn't mind. At least, she had achieved her deterrent effect, which was enough. She didn't expect the other party to believe her. You shut up. Yen Kuan shouted after hearing his wife's words. Old master, these two are clearly liars. They actually used the master of the Ning family to scare us. We can't let these two people live. The mayor's wife said to Yen Kuan with a murderous look. City lord, you have to choose carefully. Lu Tao also reminded with a faint smile, not a trace of anger on her beautiful face. I'm sorry, my wife's mental state is a little abnormal. I think her illness has acted up. I hope you two don't mind too much. Yen Kuan quickly said after hearing Green Peach's words. Master. The city lord's wife was about to get angry, but she was knocked unconscious by Yen Kuan, who suddenly attacked. Looking at the city lord's wife who was lying on the ground, Wu smiled and asked in confusion, City lord, what do you mean by this? The words just now were all nonsense when Furen's illness acted up. I hope that the two of you do not mind too much. Yen Kuan said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Don't mind. That's impossible. He paused for a moment before speaking. Then how can young Lattice's anger be appeased? Yen Kuan asked helplessly. Didn't my maidservant say that she wants you to hand over the person who snatched me? Of course, if the city lord is unwilling, I will not force you. Wu said calmly. All right, I will hand that useless son over to the young lady to deal with. Yes. Yen Kuan agreed without hesitation. City lord is a straightforward person, I am very satisfied. However, just this is not enough. Wu chuckled. What other conditions does Miss have? Yen Kuan couldn't help but ask. Please reading on Ibi oxen. Oh, come. The city lord's son snatched me away and caused serious damage to my body and mind. You should at least give me some compensation. Wu said as a matter of course. Don't worry, miss. I won't let you down. Yen Kuan quickly promised. City lord, I haven't finished my words, don't be too anxious. I understand the city lord's difficulties. I wonder if you have any thoughts of changing the current situation? Wu said with a faint smile. Wu's words were very subtle, but he believed that Yen Kuan, who had been the city lord for many years, would understand. Moreover, he did not want Yen Kuan to think that he was a person who would take things by force. Although they were interested in Yanbei City, it was only for the sake of better management of the territory that they had chosen. After all, for them, if the only way to the Nightmare Forest was in their hands, then their safety factor would greatly increase. The reason why Lu Tao had revealed that they were related to the Ning family was also to let the city lord understand how big his power was. If he had chosen this place, he could still get it by force. Sure enough, after hearing Wu's words, Yen Kuan's expression changed drastically, but he still remained calm and said, I naturally want to change the current situation. However, Yanbei City is, after all, left behind by our ancestors. Therefore, I can't be an unfilial descendant. Please allow me to consider it. Yen Kuan's words were neither accepted nor completely rejected. They had made preliminary contact and had fully revealed their intentions to Yen Kuan. Now it was up to Yen Kuan to make his own choice. After the initial contact between the two sides, Yen Kuan personally sent Wu He Green Peach back to the hotel. Of course, his incompetent eldest son was also involved. However, he did not feel distressed. After all, in his opinion, it was a good deal to sacrifice his eldest son to keep the whole family safe. After returning to the city lord's mansion, Yen Kuan locked himself in the study. Father, what happened? Yen Tao gently knocked on the door twice, then pushed it open and walked in, asking with concern. Tao, the Yen clan is in big trouble this time. Yen Kuan said with a headache. Then he told Yen Tao about the other party's plan. Father, if the other party is really as powerful as you say, they could have killed us all and then occupied this northern Yen city. However, they did not do so, which means that they are not bloodthirsty people. After all, the lives of the Yen family are the most important. Yen Tao thought for a while and advised. Chapter 1185. The Storm at the Yen Family, 1. Tao, how can I face my ancestors like this? Besides, I've kept the position of city lord for you. Yen Kuan said with a sigh. Father, our Yen family is not even worth mentioning in the divinity. If we really anger the other party, won't the Yen family be the one to suffer? Moreover, it's not the same if we give up the city of our own accord as if they've taken it away. After all, the divine world is ruled by the strong. If we don't have the ability to defend our own territory, in the eyes of others, we'll only be regarded as incompetent. And my eldest uncle has always been eyeing Northern Salt City covetously. I admit that I am not cut out to be the city lord. Rather than letting Northern Salt City fall into my eldest uncle's hands, I would rather give it to an outsider. Yen Tao was very honest. In fact, he did think so in his heart. He did not want to be trapped in this city. He loved refining weapons the most, and once he became the lord of a city, he would not be able to focus on being a weapon master. Moreover, he knew his uncle's character. His uncle had planned for many years. How could he let the meat by his mouth benefit a bastard son like him? You don't regret it? Yen Kuan watched his second son very seriously as he asked. Father, You should know that this is not my goal. Yen Tao said seriously. All right then. Then well, do as you say, AI. If Her Excellency Leng Xiaoyu is willing to accept you as a disciple, Father will be even more at ease. Yen Kuan said after thinking for a while. Dad, I'm already very satisfied that Lady Xiaoyu is willing to give me pointers. Why would I be so greedy? Yen Tao said with a smile. Hee, I was too greedy. Tao, it's rare that you can see it clearly, but you must grasp this opportunity. Remember to come to the inn more often when you're free. Yen Kuan reminded. Okay, I'll go find Her Excellency Xiaoyu tomorrow morning. Yen Tao said impatiently. In the room of the inn. Leng Ruoxue looked at Wu, who was sitting opposite her, and teased, Wu, no one took advantage of you, right? Bad girl, do you really want me to be taken advantage of? They all asked. Why would I? Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly before asking, How do you plan to deal with the city lord's son? I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. Wu said through gritted teeth. Can I plead on his behalf? Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Please reading on MYB Oxen Ov? Of course not. Wu glared at Leng Ruoxue and said fiercely. All right then. However, I still have use for that fellow. Don't play him to death. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Wu nodded and left the room. Not long after, Leng Ruoxue and the rest heard a series of howls coming from the room next door. The howls were so miserable that it made their hair stand on end. The howls had also attracted the attention of the inn's manager, waiters, and even the guests who were staying in the inn. Leng Ruoxue and the rest heard the noise outside and walked out of the room. When the shopkeeper saw them, he immediately came forward to welcome them and said with some difficulty, Miss, I wonder what happened in that room. It's nothing. One of my subordinates, Old Illness, acted up again. I'm really sorry to have disturbed the other people in the shop. Leng Ruoxue looked at the people in front of her and said guiltily, May I know what illness young lattice subordinate is suffering from? The shopkeeper asked with an awkward expression. He's crazy. He's always delirious and likes to talk nonsense. He even likes to bite people when he's crazy. Leng Ruoxue explained with a smile. Arg. Miss, he won't run out of the room and scare the other guests, right? When the innkeeper heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little scared. To be honest, he really wanted to ask this beautiful lady in front of him if she could ask that person to move to another place to stay. However, he didn't dare and didn't want to offend these people who didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Shopkeeper, don't be afraid. He won't run out of the room. It's just that when his illness acts up, his voice will be a little loud. However, it doesn't happen often. You can let the guests in the shop bear with it. Or, you can ask them to stay in another inn. Feng De put his arm around the manager's shoulder and suggested. I'll tell them. The innkeeper said with a long face. Wu, how could he let a guest stay in another inn? Wouldn't that be sending money to others? How could he be so foolish? Long live understanding. Feng De chuckled. Then, Leng Ruoxue and the rest closed the door and ignored the matter. The next day, when Yen Tao came to the door, he heard the miserable scream. The voice was familiar, but he ignored it. Instead, he went to Leng Xiaoyu and asked her for advice. That afternoon, Yen Kun came to visit Leng Ruoxue and the others. Sitting on a chair in the living room, Yen Kun felt a little nervous when he was faced with the probing gazes of the crowd. The young woman sitting opposite him was especially nervous. He was so nervous that he broke out in a cold sweat. Needless to say, that woman was Leng Ruoxue. This was his first time meeting Leng Ruoxue. Damn it, what was going on? Although he didn't dare to say that he was knowledgeable, there was no need for him to be so nervous and uneasy about a little girl. This was really too strange. May I know why City Lord Yen has come to visit? Leng Ruoxue asked knowingly. A few days ago, that unfilial son of mine committed a mistake. As his father, I am willing to compensate him. Therefore, I am willing to give Yanbei City to all of you. Yen Kun carefully thought of his words and then said, City Lord Yen, I really don't care about such a small city. In fact, I'm interested in the Nightmare Forest and want to make it my territory. However, the cities around it are the main roads into the forest, so I have to control them. Leng Ruoxue spoke the truth. Since Yen Kuan had already made his choice, there was no need for her to hide her purpose. After all, she intended to take Yen Kuan in for her own use. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Yen Kun's eyes flickered. He did not reply immediately, but seemed to be deep in thought. Miss Leng, are you planning to take over the cities around the forest for your own use? Yen Kuan asked after a while. Yes, I am. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Miss Leng, the Nightmare Forest is not a suitable place to be a territory. Otherwise, it would have been occupied by others long ago. Yen Kuan couldn't help but remind her and secretly thought, this young lady has a big appetite. He actually wanted to make that forest his territory. In fact, in the past millions of years, it was not that no one had ever tried to take that forest, but they had never succeeded. Chapter 1186, The Storm at the Yen Family, 2. Why not? Because it's dangerous? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. On one hand, it's dangerous. On the other hand, many forces go there every year to train and explore. If Miss Leng takes it as her private territory, I'm afraid it will cause opposition from all the major forces. At that time, Yen Kuan didn't finish his words, but he believed that the young woman in front of him would understand. I am not a person who is afraid of trouble. Since I have decided to make that place my territory, I will not change my mind. City Lord Yen, I will now give you two choices. One is to leave Yanbei City, and the other is to continue to manage the city for me. I will give you 3 days. Make your choice. Leng Ruoxue said directly. Of course, if you're willing, I can also hand over Yannan City to you. Leng Ruoxue added. Yen Kuan was shocked, but he did not say anything. He chose to leave and said that he would give Leng Ruoxue an answer within 3 days. After seeing Yen Kuan off, Feng De looked at his lady with confusion and said, Young lady, why are you treating Yen Kuan so differently? It's not like we can't find someone to manage this small city. I told you to mind your own business. What are you doing? Leng Ruoxue rolled her eyes at Feng De. I don't care. Feng De waved his hand repeatedly, afraid that his young lady would give him this task. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to follow the young lady. That would really be a loss that outweighed the gain. The Yen family has been living in Yanbei and Yannan City for at least several thousand years. They have their roots here, so of course Yen Kuan would not be willing to leave. However, for the sake of the Yen family, he easily compensated us with Yanbei City. If he continued to stay in Yanbei City, wouldn't he become the uncrowned city lord? How could I keep him here? The only chance for him to stay here is to continue to manage Yanbei City for me. In the eyes of outsiders, Yanbei City still belongs to the Yen family. We just need to be the masters behind the scenes. Leng Ruoxue explained. Her ambition was not in northern Yen City, so she would not spend too much effort on such a small city. However, she had to let Yen Kuan know that she was the true owner of northern Yen City. Will Yen Kuan agree? Feng De asked curiously. He has no reason not to agree. He has deep feelings for Yanbei City, and he has put too much effort into this city. How could he not agree? Leng Ruoxue was sure that Yen Kuan would agree to this. Therefore, she stopped paying attention to the city lord's mansion. At this time, Yen Kuan had also returned to the city lord's mansion and was sitting in his study. His mind was in turmoil. He had not expected that he could continue to be the city lord. He could even take over Yannan City. Was this possible? Yannan City was the main city of the Yen clan. Moreover, his elder brother would not hand over the control of the city so easily. If that was the case, wouldn't the Yen clan in Yannan City be in trouble? One must know, looking at that Miss Leng's appearance, it was obvious that she was determined to get the few cities around the forest. So, how could this be good? When he thought of this, he quickly summoned his confidant, gave him some instructions, and sent him to do something. In the bracelet, Leng Ruoxue leaned into the evildoer's embrace, enjoying the rare peace and quiet. Please reading on MYB Oxen. Oh, it's been 2 days, but Yen Kuan still hasn't given us an answer. The demon chuckled. It doesn't matter. He'll agree sooner or later anyway. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Everyone knew about the hidden heart, and Yan Kuan was no exception. In fact, Yan Kuan had sent his confidant out of the city, and her senior brother had found out about it and informed her. She had not wanted to pay attention to the Yan family situation, so she had to arrange for Qingju to observe the movements in the city lord's mansion. Sister. Qingju appeared in front of Leng Ruoxue and the demon. Qingju, what's the matter? Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and asked with a smile. Sister, some people from Yannan City have come to the city lord's mansion. Yan Kuan is in trouble. Qingju reported. Oh, let me know when Yan Kun's life is in danger. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Did sister know that Yan Kun's life would be in danger? Qingju's face was filled with surprise. He cared about the brotherhood, but unfortunately, the other party never treated him as a brother. So, he expressed the wrong feelings. This time, let's just treat it as a lesson for him. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. She was well aware of Yan Kun's intention. He wanted to persuade her brother to hand over Yannan City so as not to bring disaster to his clan. However, if he heard this, not only would he not thank him, but it would also arouse his anger. However, since she had chosen Yan Kuan, she would not watch him be killed. At the same time, the city lord's mansion acted just as Leng Ruoxue had expected. Yan Kuan looked at his elder brother, his heart filled with disappointment. Although his brother's character wasn't great, he didn't expect the other party to not care about the big picture at all. He was sending his clansmen to their deaths. Yan Kuan, how dare you collude with outsiders to betray the Yan family? The head of the Yan family roared with a righteous look. This patriarch of the Yan family was about 50 years old. Although he looked upright, his slightly gloomy eyes revealed his true nature. He was a narrow-minded and jealous villain. Family head, not only did Yan Kuan betray the Yan family, but he also handed Qi over to the other party for a bastard. You have to seek justice for Qi. Suddenly, a sobbing middle-aged woman ran up to Patriarch Yan and began to complain. Yan Kuan, what do you have to say? The patriarch of the Yan clan asked. I have nothing to say. Since Big Brother has made up his mind, I won't say anything more. Yan Kuan, have a clear conscience to the family. Yan Kuan said indifferently. He had already done what he needed to do. Therefore, he could no longer decide what would happen to the Yan family. Men, take Yan Kuan down and punish him according to the family law. The patriarch of the Yan family shouted after hearing Yan Kun's words. You'll see who dares to move. Uncle, if you dare to touch a single hair on my father's head, I will make this woman die a terrible death. Suddenly, Yan Tao's voice rang in everyone's ears. The city lord's wife, who had been crying and complaining, was now in his hand, and the bright knife was now held against the city lord's wife's neck. Chapter 1187, The Yan Family's Storm, 3, Master, save me. The city lord's wife cried out in shock. Are you threatening me? The Yan family had narrowed his eyes, his heart filled with anger. He had always thought that this kid was easy to manipulate. He didn't expect that he would reach out his claws today. In that case, don't blame him for being merciless. The people of the Yan family who had come with the head of the Yan family were speechless when they saw that Yan Tao had actually grabbed their own stepmother to threaten the head. Had this Yan Tao gone crazy? He had actually grabbed their father's wife to threaten the head of the family. What was this? At this moment, they all subconsciously thought that Yan Tao had been scared silly. How would I dare to threaten Big Uncle? Big Uncle can't be like the others and think that I'm scared silly, right? Seeing the reaction of the Yan family, he could guess what they were thinking. He was not interested in this city, but he did not want it to fall into his uncle's hands. Therefore, he would rather give it to an outsider. Unfortunately, his father was too stupid. He cared about the safety of his family, but he was killed by his family. This was something he would never allow. What do you want? The patriarch of the Yan clan asked with some anger. He hated Yan Tao so much that he was grinding his teeth. All of you, leave northern Yan City immediately. This place no longer belongs to the Yan family. If Miss Lung and the others find out about this, Don't even think about returning to southern Yen City alive, Yen Tao warned. Unfortunately, his words didn't scare the Yen family. On the contrary, they were united against a common enemy. What young lady Lung? Why would our Yen family be afraid of him? Someone from the Yen family said. His words resonated with the others. Not afraid? You will regret this. Yen Tao laughed coldly. He had been in contact with Lung Ruoxue and the others for a few days and was very clear about how terrifying the identities of those people were. Unfortunately, his words carried little weight and no one took his words seriously. Tao, quickly leave this place. Seeing that Yen Tao had kidnapped his wife, Yen Kuan quickly said. It didn't matter if he died, but he only had one son and he couldn't die here. Now it was obvious that the father and son were at a disadvantage. All the guards in the mansion had been subdued by his so-called elder brother. Father, if we're going to die, well, die together. I won't leave here. Yen Tao said stubbornly. Tao. Yen Kuan was both angry and anxious. He knew that his son was very stubborn, but he did not expect Tao Heir's temper to come up at this critical moment. Since you want to die together, I'll fulfill your wish. Hearing Yen Tao's words, the patriarch of the Yen family said coldly. Master, save me. At this time, the city lord's wife shouted again. Sister-in-law, it's not that I don't want to save you, nor do I want to kill you. If you want to blame someone, blame your own husband and this little bastard. The patriarch of the Yen clan said emotionlessly. You're the bastard. And a bastard who doesn't even let his own sister-in-law off. Yen Tao said with a look of disdain. Please reading on AB Oxen. Oh, come, what nonsense are you spouting? The head of the Yen family was shocked to hear Yen Tao's words. He had always kept his dignity and had a high prestige in the family. Naturally, he did not want any scandals about himself to spread out. Then, he turned his eyes to Yen Kuan. Seeing Yen Kun's calm face, he could not help but wonder how much Yen Kuan knew. Uncle, am I talking nonsense? However, I'm quite impressed that you could disguise yourself for so many years. Aren't you tired? Yen Tao mocked. Auntie, it seems like the patriarch is planning to get rid of our family of 3. Don't you have anything to say? Yen Tao looked at the panic-stricken city lord's wife and asked. Master, I've done so many things for you, how can you be so heartless? Even if you don't care about me, you have to save your son. The city lord's wife said sadly, as if she had aged 10 years in an instant. She had thought that the man she had been thinking about was here to save their son. Who knew that they were actually here to seize the city? They had waited for so many years, could it be that they were still in a hurry? What are you talking about? Shut up. The patriarch of the Yen clan roared in anger. Hee, big uncle is really heartless. It seems that in your heart, your woman and son are not important. This northern Yen city is the most important. It's a pity that we have already given it away. Yen Tao chuckled. Damn it, what are you guys doing? Quickly execute these 3 traitors on the spot. The patriarch of the Yen family was furious. After he finished speaking, he released his divine power and attacked Yen Tao and the governor's wife. In an instant, several rays of colorful divine power were released from different directions at the same time, and their targets were all Yen Tao and the city lord's wife. Tao, be careful. After Yen Kuan blocked the divine skill that was aimed at him, he saw several divine powers flying toward his son. He immediately shouted nervously. However, his warning was still too late. Yen Tao's hand was holding the city lord's wife, so his reaction was much slower than usual. Those divine skills were extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Yen Tao and hit him and the city lord's wife. Tao. Seeing Yen Tao fall to the ground, Yen Kun's heart ached. The hatred in his heart was ignited in an instant. He had endured for many years so that Tao could grow up safely. However, he did not expect that today, he would still watch his only son die. At this moment, his heart was full of regret. Why did he have to send the message to the other party on account of the relationship between his clan? Originally, he wanted to avoid the casualties of his clansmen, but he didn't expect that these so-called clansmen would turn around and deal with him. He gave up. Tao was right, they were not worth it. I'll send you and your father to hell to reunite. The Yen family head said coldly. Then, he waved the knife in his hand and slashed at Yen Kun. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck the saber in his hand. Then, an angry roar rang in everyone's ears. You killed my mother, I'm going to kill you. Suddenly, everyone saw Yuan Xi holding a sword in his hand and stabbing straight at the head of the Yen family. However, Yuan Xi had been ignorant and incompetent since he was a child. Naturally, he was no match for the head of the Yen family. In just one round, Yuan Xi was knocked to the ground, then spat out blood and passed out. It's said that even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. It seems that the head of the Yen family is even worse than a wild beast. A faint mocking voice rang out. At this moment, the crowd finally noticed that there were still people beside Yuan Xi. It was a pity that their attention was all on Yuan Xi, hence they did not notice the presence of these people. In fact, this was also because Leng Ruoxue and the others had deliberately reduced their presence. Who are you people? This is the Yen clan's family matter, so it's best if you don't meddle in other people's business. Offending our Yen clan in this northern Yen city will not do you any good. The head of the Yen family looked at Leng Ruoxue and the rest warily and warned them. Yen family head, are you planning to kill us? Leng Ruoxue understood. She really didn't understand what was there to fight over between two small cities. They were actually trying to kill each other, even though they were not born from the same mother. After observing in the dark for a while and using her mind-reading technique, Leng Ruoxue was able to sort out the grudge between the two brothers. It was nothing more than the former head of the Yen family giving Yanbei City to the illegitimate son, which had caused the dissatisfaction of the first wife's son. Therefore, the first wife's son, who was the current head of the Yen family, had tried his best to take back Yanbei City. However, he had not expected that his plan of many years would be ruined by her. Yen Kun had even advised his brother to be sensible and hand over the control of Yannan City to avoid bringing disaster to the family. This had angered the head of the Yen family. However, who could say that Yen Kun did not do it on purpose? However, he didn't expect that the head of the Yen family would be even angrier than he had imagined. At the same time, he had also brought disaster upon himself. So what if I kill you? Yanbei City is our Yen clan's territory. The Yen clan head said disapprovingly. Miss Leng. Yen Kun wanted to say something but stopped. The hatred on his face was obvious. You are the young lady Leng who wanted to take over the Yen clan city? The patriarch of the Yen family narrowed his eyes and said angrily. Doesn't this world respect the strong? There's nothing wrong with me taking a fancy to your city. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. It was obvious that she wanted to anger him to death. You will regret provoking the Yen family. The Yen clan head said furiously. Oh really? But we've already provoked him, what else can we do? Leng Ruoxue shrugged her shoulders and said nonchalantly. Everyone of the Yen family, hear my order. Kill all these people who want to take the Yen family's property. The head of the Yen family ordered angrily. The Yen family members he had brought with him swarmed forward. Feng De and the others, who had been waiting impatiently, accepted the challenge. In an instant, both sides were in a chaotic battle. However, in the blink of an eye, the Yen family was annihilated, leaving the patriarch of the Yen family alone. Leng Ruoxue looked at the Yen family head with a half-smile and asked, Patriarch Yen, I'm sorry, but you're all alone now. What do you plan to do? While Leng Ruoxue was speaking, Feng De and the rest surrounded the Yen family head. Don't do anything stupid. I'm the patriarch of the Yen family. The patriarch of the Yen clan said with some fear. Leng Ruoxue didn't even look at the Yen family head. She immediately released a red divine force and sent it flying towards him. In an instant, the Yen family head spat out a mouthful of blood and half knelt on the ground. Miss Leng, can you hand him over to me? At this time, Yen Kun pleaded, his face full of shame. Sure. Leng Ruoxue was very generous. She had no interest in being the Yen family head, so she was naturally happy to do Yen Kun a favor. Thank you, Miss Leng. Yen Kun said gratefully. Then, he picked up the sword on the ground and stabbed it into the body of the Yen family's patriarch. This was what he had wanted to do for a long time. Unfortunately, he could not bring himself to do it. Now that his only son had died in the hands of his elder brother, he had no more worries. Miss Yen Tao seems to still be breathing. Feng De, who was cleaning up the scene, suddenly said, "What?" Yen Kuan, who had just killed his enemy, was disheartened. However, after hearing Feng De's words, he immediately ran to Yen Tao's side and checked his breath. "He's indeed angry. Miss Leng, I beg you to save my son. I'm willing to do anything for you and acknowledge you as my master." Tao Er's injuries were too severe and couldn't be treated with ordinary healing medicine. That was why he had to seek help from Leng Ruoxue in this desperate situation. "Feed him this pill." Leng Ruoxue took out a white pill from her ring and handed it to Yen Kuan. Chapter 1188, Linjiang City, 1. Thank you, miss. Yen Kuan took the elixir and was surprised to find that the elixir was flowing with a 7-colored light. He could tell that it was extraordinary at first glance. Therefore, he stuffed the elixir into his son's mouth without hesitation. Not long after, Yen Tao slowly woke up. When he saw Yen Kuan, who was covered in blood, in front of him, his tears immediately flowed out and he cried out, "Father, why are you also?" Yen Tao could not finish his sentence. Yen Kuan looked at his son and chided him, "Silly boy, why are you crying? We're not dead yet." "Arg. Really?" Yen Tao's face was full of surprise. He thought he was dead for sure, but now that he knew he was still alive, his mood of ups and downs was really bad. "Tao, it was Miss Leng who saved us," Yen Kuan said with embarrassment. If he didn't care about the friendship of his clan, this kind of thing wouldn't have happened in the city lord's mansion. At this moment, only the word regret could express his feelings. "Thank you for saving my life, Miss Leng," Yen Tao said gratefully. "Young Lady Leng, I'm willing to represent the Yen clan and recognize you as our master," Yen Kuan said. "Can City Lord Yen represent the entire clan?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. "The branch of Yannan City has suffered countless casualties. Now that they are a group of dragons without a leader, it is the best time to subdue them. As the head of the Yen family, after the head's death, I will naturally be the head of the family. Therefore, I can make the decision," Yen Kuan said confidently. In his generation, he and the patriarch had the highest prestige. Now that the patriarch was dead and those who could oppose him had gone with the patriarch, who could stop him? If that's the case, then you and your father will follow Feng De to conquer the Yen family in Yannan City. Those who submit will prosper, and those who resist will perish. Don't disappoint me," Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. "Miss, don't worry. Yen Kuan knows what to do." Yen Kuan promised. After a while, the father and son of the Yen family followed Feng De and the others to Yannan City, while Leng Ruoxue and the others returned to the inn. In the inn, "Shui, can we trust this Yen Kuan father and son?" Leng Qingtian asked worriedly. Yen Kuan had brought this upon himself, so he didn't feel any sympathy for him. Please reading on MYB Oxen Ovu. "Come, Grandpa, don't worry. He has already given up on the Yen clan in Yannan City. I have also saved his precious son, so he naturally has to perform well this time," Leng Ruoxue said. "I hope so. However, if he dares to play any tricks, I will definitely not let him off." Leng Qingtian huffed. Grandfather, he doesn't have the guts. Even if he did, I wouldn't be afraid," Leng Ruoxue said confidently. "That's good." Leng Qingtian was very assured of his granddaughter. 3 days later, Feng De and Yen Kuan had finished dealing with the matters in southern Yen City and returned to northern Yen City. In the living room, Feng De was reporting to Leng Ruoxue about the situation in Yannan City. Yen Kuan and his son were standing beside him. After Feng De was done reporting, the father and son knelt down together and swore by their bloodline that they would forever be loyal to Leng Ruoxue and would never betray her. After the contract was over, the Yen family had officially become Leng Ruoxue's subordinates. Since the two cities of Yanbei and Yannan had been united, Yen Kuan was still the city lord. However, other than himself and some of Master Ning's subordinates, No one knew that Yan Kuan and the others had already belonged to Lung Ruoxue. Their next plan was to conquer Nether Wind, Willow, and Linjiang. Miss, I'm a good friend of the city lord of the Dark Wind City, and I also have business dealings with Foliu City. Why don't you let this subordinate try out these two cities? Yan Kuan quickly said after knowing the next step of the plan. All right, I'll leave these two cities to you. Lung Ruoxue nodded. She knew that Yan Kuan was eager to show off, so she was happy to give him a chance. Please wait for the good news, miss. Yan Kuan turned around and left. Half a month later, Yan Kuan had brought back two people. They were none other than Ming Feng and the city lord of Foliu City. The first thing Yan Kuan did when he returned to Yanbei City was to bring them to the inn to see Lung Ruoxue. In the guest room of the inn, the two of them sat on the chair with Yan Kuan. They looked at Lung Ruoxue uneasily and were so nervous that they could not speak. Yan Kuan was also deeply affected by the scene because he was also very nervous when he first met Lung Ruoxue. Yan Kuan has told you my conditions, right? Submit to me, and you'll help me manage Dark Wind and Willow trees. You'll become my subordinates, and I'll naturally not mistreat you. Lung Ruoxue was the first to speak. Miss Lung, City Lord Yan has already spoken to us. After some discussion, we are willing to acknowledge you as our master. However, our family now has an enemy who is also eyeing Dark Wind City like a tiger watching its prey. So, I'm afraid that acknowledging you as our master now will only bring trouble to you, Miss Lung. The city lord of the Dark North Wind City, Chi Mu, said with a troubled expression. In fact, he really wanted Miss Lung to help him eliminate his enemies, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. Moreover, he was also afraid that this devastatingly beautiful young lady would not be a match for his enemy. In reality, he still did not know Lung Ruoxue's true strength. Yan Kuan did not tell him in detail either. He only told him that Miss Lung was very powerful and it would not be wrong to acknowledge her as his master. At the same time, he was in a situation where he was trapped inside and outside. There were tigers and wolves outside, and his clansmen were in a state of panic. Hence, he had no choice but to agree to acknowledge her as his master. What's going on? Lung Ruoxue asked calmly, her beautiful eyes sizing up Chi Mu. This city lord of Dark Wind City looked to be in his 40s, but he had an honest look on his face. He was an upright person. AI. A few days ago, my clan's team that went to the Nightmare Forest for training accidentally discovered a heavenly treasure. I don't know how, but the news somehow reached the enemy's ears. The other party wanted to buy it by force, but I naturally refused. Therefore, the two sides were in a stalemate. In recent days, our Chi clan's clansmen have been injured or killed for no reason, which made me suspicious. After investigation, I found out that it was the enemy's doing. Chi Mu said angrily. The enemy's family is very powerful on the godly mainland. My Chi family is just a small family. Of course, we're not their match. Chi Mu added. He had agreed to the master's request only because he wanted to seek protection. However, after seeing Lung Ruoxue, he was a little hesitant. Could such a delicate young lady protect their Chi family? He did not want to implicate Lung Ruoxue because of the Chi family's disaster. Chapter 1189, Linjiang City, 2. Is your enemy from the 8 great divine regions? Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. No. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Chi Mu's forehead was full of cold sweat. He thought to himself, if the other party is from the 8 great divine regions, no matter how unwilling I am, I would have to hand over the treasure with both hands. Moreover, the other party's purpose is not just this. What's there to be afraid of? Lung Ruoxue replied nonchalantly. In reality, even if the other party was from the 8 great divine regions, she was not afraid. Chi Mu was confused. Was he worrying for nothing? Chi Mu, since you're willing to recognize me as your master, your enemies are naturally mine as well. I'll take care of them for you. Lung Ruoxue laughed. Thank you, miss. I, Chi Mu, would like to represent the Chi family and recognize you as our master. Chi Mu quickly said. Then he sent a blood contract to show his loyalty. After recognizing her as his master, The big stone in his heart was finally lifted. Since Miss said that she would take care of the enemy for him, he had nothing to worry about. After dealing with Chi Mu, Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes turned towards the city lord of Fulia City. She smiled and asked, "City Lord Lu, do you have any difficulties? Why don't you tell me?" "This subordinate does not have any difficulties," City Lord Lu Yong hurriedly said as if he was a subordinate. The Lu family was in a state of decline, so he wanted to find a backer. It just so happened that Lung Ruoxue had sent Yan Kuan to negotiate with him. He had known Yan Kuan for many years and they were in a cooperative relationship. Therefore, he naturally trusted Yan Kun's judgment. After discussing with the clan members, he decided to recognize Lung Ruoxue as his master. Following which, Lu Yong also issued a bloodline contract, officially acknowledging Lung Ruoxue as his master. After subduing 2 more cities, Lung Ruoxia's only target was Linjiang City. However, Lung Ruoxue wasn't in a hurry to take over Linjiang City. Instead, she planned to strengthen the defenses of the 4 cities that she had already taken over. Hence, she decided to add a defensive formation to each of the 4 cities. With the city lord's residence as the core of the defensive formation, its defensive capabilities would naturally be multiplied. After spending close to a month's time, Lung Ruoxue had set up a defensive formation in 4 cities. The group then headed to the last city around the nightmare forest that had not been conquered, Linjiang City. Linjiang City was located to the north of the nightmare forest. It was the largest city out of the 5, but it was not the most prosperous. The public security in Linjiang City was very poor. There were all sorts of people in the city. When Lung Ruoxue and the others walked on the streets, they would see fights happening from time to time. Please reading on MIB Oxen Ovu. Miss, the governor of Linjiang City is muddle-headed and incompetent. He's not someone worth subduing. Yan Kuan, who had accompanied Lung Ruoxue and the others to Linjiang City, said, "Oh, let's wait and see." Lung Ruoxue said calmly. If the governor of Linjiang City was as Yan Kuan had said, she would naturally choose another governor. The crowd immediately found a hotel. However, when they asked for the price, they were all shocked. "How much do you think a night is worth?" Feng De's eyes were wide open as he asked in disbelief. "1 night stay will cost 1 top-grade crystal stone," the inn manager said as he rolled his eyes at Feng De. He was secretly lamenting in his heart. Looking at the clothes of these people, they were clearly poor, so he naturally did not intend to entertain them well. "Why is it so expensive? Is there anything special about your inn?" Feng De looked at the decorations in the inn and found that they were quite ordinary, but the price was shockingly high. "No, if you want to stay, pay up quickly. If you don't want to stay, please leave. Don't delay my business. There are so many people in Linjiang City now, I don't have to worry about not having enough people to stay in my inn," the inn manager said confidently. "Why are there so many people in Linjiang City?" Lung Ruhan could not help but ask. On the street, Yan Kuan had said that there seemed to be more people in Linjiang City than usual. As for why, he did not know either. Now that the inn manager had said the same thing, he naturally wanted to ask. "Don't tell me that you're not here for the city lord's daughter to choose a husband," the inn manager asked in disbelief. "We're not. We just arrived at Linjiang City today," Lung Ruhan said honestly. He could not understand. Linjiang City was not that big. If the governor's daughter wanted to find a husband, was there a need for so many people to come? Then you've come to the right place. Our city lord is looking for a son-in-law for his daughter, so you should quickly go and register. Today is the last day. The shopkeeper reminded. Why do we need to register? Feng De didn't understand. Whoever marries the city lord's daughter will be the next city lord of Riverbank City. Such a good thing is like a pie falling from the sky. If it wasn't for the fact that I didn't meet the requirements, I would have signed up for it long ago, the shopkeeper said with a face full of regret. Feng De was speechless. He was deeply ashamed of the shopkeeper's thoughts. He couldn't understand why so many men would covet a mere city lord's daughter. Could it be that men nowadays have fallen to the point where they need to rely on women to achieve success? One had to know that he looked down on men who lived off women the most. Do you guys want to stay here or not? Don't delay my business. The shopkeeper couldn't help but ask. Of course we're staying, get us a room. Lung Ruoxue said. All right. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the shopkeeper immediately beamed with joy. His expression changed so quickly that Feng De and the others looked down on him. After entering the room, Lung Ruoxue took a look at Feng De and the rest. She could not help but tease, whoever wants to be the son-in-law of Linjiang City can go and register. Today is the last day. Miss, don't joke with us. We want sign up. Lin Yuan said with a bitter face. Not to mention that they still didn't know whether the daughter of Linjiang City was round or flat. Even if she was an absolute beauty, they didn't want to live off a woman. Hee, you guys do as you please. I'm going to rest. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she pulled the evildoer into the room. Feng De and the others had nothing to do, so they took Yan Kuan as a guide and went for a walk on the street. They didn't return from the streets until evening. When they saw Lung Ruoxue, Feng De and the rest could not wait to tell her what they had seen and heard on the street. Young miss, we went to the city lord's mansion today. Before Feng De could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Lung Ruoxue. Chapter 1190, Linjiang City, 3. Are you going to register? Lung Ruoxue asked with an evil smile. Of course not, we're just going to watch the show. The people who are registering in front of the city lord's mansion are lined up for almost 2 streets. I really couldn't tell that the daughter of the governor of Linjiang City is so attractive. Feng De said, speechless. Those people aren't after the city governor's daughter, so they don't care what she looks like. Lung Ruoxue said, My lady, the governor of Linjiang City is named Jiang Fan. He is a greedy and lecherous man. Although he has many wives and concubines, he only has one daughter. However, I really don't understand. With the long lifespans of cultivators, why is he in such a hurry to find a husband for his only daughter? Yan Kuan asked with a puzzled look. You don't have to understand. This has nothing to do with us. Our target is Linjiang City. Therefore, we just have to find a way to make Linjiang City our own. Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Miss, why don't we just snatch it? Lin Yuan suggested. Then aren't we bandits? Lung Ruoxue retorted. Lin Yuan was speechless. Could it be that Miss is still counting on the city lord of Linjiang City to hand over Linjiang City? There's no rush. Let's observe for a few more days. Lung Ruoxue was very calm. Then she ordered Yan Kuan, go to the city lord's mansion tomorrow and see that Jiang Fan. Find out what his purpose is. Yes. Yan Kuan replied. The next day, Yan Kuan brought Feng De to the city lord's mansion. With his status as the city lord of Yanbei City, the Jiang family's steward invited him into the city lord's mansion with great respect. After sitting in the living room for a while, Jiang Fan appeared. City Lord Yan has come to visit. Please forgive me for not welcoming you. Jiang Fan said very politely. Jiang Fan looked to be around 50 years old. He was slightly chubby, had ordinary facial features, and his steps were a little weak. It was obvious that he was addicted to beauty all year round. Please reading on myboxen.com, City Lord Jiang is too polite. Actually, I was just passing by, so I came to see you. Yan Kuan said. In fact, he and Jiang Fan were only acquaintances who nodded at each other. It was a bit far-fetched to say so. Oh. Jiang Fan nodded and didn't think much about it. City Lord Jiang, after I entered the city, I heard that you were going to choose a husband for your daughter? You even promised to give the city lord's position as a betrothal gift? Yan Kuan asked out of curiosity. I should also find her a husband, and I can't sit on this city lord's position forever. I have to find a successor. Jiang Fan said matter-of-factly, and his words were also reasonable, so no one could find any fault with them. Why didn't City Lord Jiang pass the position of City Lord to his daughter? Wouldn't this mean that the Jiang family still owns the city? Yan Kuan suggested. At the same time, he was testing the waters. Even if it's passed down to my son-in-law, Linjiang City will still be the Jiang family's. I won't let Linjiang City fall into the hands of outsiders. Jiang Fan said confidently. City Lord Jiang, don't blame me for being meddlesome. I always feel that even if a man married into the family, he might not be of the same heart as Miss Jiang. So, passing the city lord's position to his son-in-law is really not a safe choice. If that man has other thoughts, City Lord Jiang would be raising an ungrateful wolf. Yan Kuan said worriedly. He didn't forget to observe Jiang Fan's reaction as he spoke. When he saw Jiang Fan only frowning slightly, the doubt in his heart deepened. I've also thought about City Lord Yan's considerations, but my daughter is not cut out to be a city lord. I have no choice. Jiang Fan said with a depressed look. Then City Lord Jiang should open your eyes wide and choose carefully. Yan Kuan reminded. City Lord Yan, don't worry. I still have good judgment. Jiang Fan nodded seriously. After a while, Yan Kuan and Feng De left. On the way back to the inn, Yan Kuan looked at Feng De and couldn't help but ask, what do you think? Isn't the official selection of son-in-law 3 days later? Well, no, when we go and take a look. Feng De said with a smile. He didn't care who the son-in-law of the Jiang family was, but he didn't mind watching the show. 3 days passed by quickly. On the day of the selection, Leng Ruoxue and the rest arrived early. As the selection of the son-in-law was open to the public, Jiang Fan had specially ordered people to build a stage in the most lively city center. He had even posted a thread to the famous people of Linjiang City, inviting them to be judges. As the city lord of Yanbei City, Yan Kuan was naturally among the invited. As a judge, Yan Kuan naturally had to sit in the judge's seat. As Yan Kun's companions, Leng Ruoxue and the others also got better seats. It was said that there were thousands of men who had signed up this time. After an initial screening by the city lord's office, only the most outstanding 200 were left, and the son-in-law of the Linjiang city lord would be chosen from these 200. The selection was divided into 3 days. The first day's process was mainly self-introduction and the display of their best talents. Finally, the judges would decide the 100 men who could participate in the second day's selection. After the 200 men had finished their self-introductions, Green Peach asked quietly, Miss, who will win? I don't know, Leng Ruoxue said uninterestedly. She didn't think that Jiang Fan would use the process of a beauty pageant to choose a husband for his daughter. It seemed like he placed a lot of importance on the selection of a husband. I'm quite optimistic about that number 3. Lu Tao said with a smile. Because I'm handsome? Leng Ruoxue understood. Number 3 had a handsome face, and it was indeed very easy for women to be attracted to his appearance at first glance. However, he was a restless man, so Leng Ruoxue did not have a good impression of number 3. It's only pleasing to the eye when you're handsome. Lu Tao said, unafraid of death. What's the use of being handsome? He's just a pretty boy. When Feng De heard Lu Tao's words, he said with jealousy burning in his heart. He knew that Lu Tao was deliberately angering him because he was very curious about the appearance of the city lord's daughter. How is it useless? It's good to see it. Lu Tao said in an unpleasant tone. Green Peach. Feng De looked at Green Peach pitifully. His expression was as aggrieved as he could be. Chapter 1191, Linjiang City, 4. Miss, today's selection has ended. Let's go back. Lu Tao ignored Feng De's pitiful act and said to Leng Ruoxue. Yes. Leng Ruoxue smiled and nodded. Following that, everyone returned to the inn. Leng Ruoxue and the rest did not go to watch the competition on the second day. After all, they had seen all the candidates and they were not very interested in who would win. On the last day, Leng Ruoxue and the rest left the inn and went to the selection venue. After 2 days of selection, there were only 20 candidates left. These 20 people could be considered as 1 in 10,000 elites. Whether it was their appearance or cultivation, they were the best among the applicants. After 2 rounds of demonstration, only 10 of these 20 people were left, and number 3, who Green Peach had a better view of, was naturally among them. Immediately after, the host of this selection invited the city lord's daughter out. As it turned out, as the most outstanding candidates, the last obstacle that the 10 of them had to pass was to gain the favor of the castellan's daughter. To put it bluntly, it was up to the castellan's daughter to decide who she fancied. Whoever she fancied would be the future governor of Linjiang City. Lu Tao and the others who were sitting below the stage stretched their necks to see the true face of the city governor's daughter. However, after waiting for a long time, they still did not see a woman walking up the stage. "Miss, this city lord's daughter is so haughty," Lu Tao said with a dissatisfied expression. "Hee, she's a girl. Of course, I have to be more reserved." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. As soon as she finished speaking, someone in the audience shouted that the castellan's daughter had arrived. Instantly, everyone's eyes were drawn to her. Not long after, everyone saw a moving round ball rolling up the stage. The reason why she rolled was because the city lord's daughter accidentally fell down when she was walking up the stage. Coupled with her slightly fat figure, she rolled directly to the feet of the male candidates. When everyone saw this scene, they couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. The appearance of the city lord's daughter is quite special. Lu Tao was speechless. No wonder the governor of Linjiang City was in such a hurry to choose a husband for his daughter, and even used Linjiang City as a betrothal gift. Without Linjiang City, it would not be easy for the daughter of the governor to get married. When the city governor's daughter crawled up from the ground, everyone saw her appearance even more clearly, and instantly, the people present couldn't help but retch. Please reading on OIB oxen ogle. Come, fuck, is he even human? Not only was she fat, but she was also so ugly. What was even more unbearable was that she was drooling as she stared at the 10 men on the stage with a dazed expression. When the 10 men saw the appearance of the city governor's daughter, 4 of them immediately expressed their intention to forfeit and withdraw from the competition. In the blink of an eye, there were only 6 candidates left on the stage, and they had been hesitating. The city lord's daughter was a little disappointed that 4 beautiful men had left, but when she remembered that she still had 6 choices, she immediately became elated. However, before she could be happy, 3 more men who were hesitating announced that they had forfeited. The city governor's daughter looked at the 3 remaining men on the stage and pointed her finger without hesitation, choosing her future husband. The man she chose was number 3, whom Green Peach had a better opinion of. When the other 2 men saw this, they seemed to be relieved and walked down the stage in high spirits. In fact, if they were not from Linjiang City, they would have forfeited as well. However, when they thought of the authority of the city lord, they had no choice but to stand on the stage and let the city lord's daughter choose. Seeing that his daughter had made her choice, Jiang Fan happily walked up to the stage and announced the identity of the 3rd man as the future city lord. Then he decided to hold a banquet in the city lord's mansion to celebrate and invited all the citizens in the city to attend. However, Lung Ruoxue and the others were not interested in this, so they went back to the inn. The next morning, Lung Ruoxue and the others went to the restaurant to have breakfast. The moment they entered the restaurant, they heard some guests whispering. Although their voices were very soft, they still managed to make their way into their ears. "What were you guys talking about?" Lung Ruoxue pretended to be confused and asked. Faced with such a beautiful woman's question, the 2 men who were talking immediately replied politely, "Young miss still doesn't know. Something happened in the city lord's mansion yesterday, and many people died." The person who spoke had a face full of regret, but at the same time, there was a trace of relief. Wasn't yesterday a good day for the city lord's daughter to choose her husband? Lung Ruoxue probed. It was supposed to be a happy occasion, but in the end, it became a funeral. It's really too pitiful. None of the people who went to the city lord's mansion for the banquet yesterday were spared, and the city lord's family was completely annihilated. The man said. Chapter 1192, Yuan Xi 1. How could this be? Then wouldn't Linjiang City be a group of dragons without a leader? Lung Ruoxue asked worriedly. I don't think so. The future city lord is still alive, even though he's heavily injured. The man said with an envious look. The future city lord? Didn't he not marry the city lord's daughter yet? Would the people of Linjiang city allow him to be the city lord? Lung Ruoxia's beautiful face was filled with confusion as she asked. I think so. After all, the future city lord was personally appointed by the city lord himself. There's no one else in Linjiang city who's suitable for this position. The man said after thinking for a moment. Oh. After a simple chat and getting to the bottom of what they wanted to know, Lung Ruoxia and the rest had a simple meal and returned to the living room. After returning, everyone could not help but ask the question in their hearts. Miss, it's only been one night. How did all the people in the city lord's mansion die out? It's so strange. Feng De said in surprise. It's a good thing I didn't go to the city lord's mansion yesterday. Otherwise, I would have been one of the people who died today. Yen Kuan said fearfully. Old Yen, you've saved your life. It seems like you can't eat random things. Feng De patted Yen Kun's shoulder and consoled him with a smile. Yup. Yen Kuan wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He was obviously shocked. Who said that all the people in the city lord's mansion are dead? Isn't the former city lord's new son-in-law still alive? Lung Ruoxia chuckled as she reminded him. Ah. Everyone was speechless. They weren't fools and could easily figure out the hidden trick in this matter. Feng De, take some men with you to check the situation. Also, check if there are any other surviving members of the Jiang family. Lung Ruoxia thought for a moment and ordered. Yes, miss. Yes, master. Feng De replied. Then he left the inn with Lin Yuan and the others. After 3 days of secret investigation, Feng De and the others confirmed that no one survived in the city lord's mansion. However, it was said that the dead Jiang Fan had a younger brother. However, that younger brother made a mistake decades ago and was exiled to the countryside of Linjiang city to fend for himself. Please reading on MYB Oxen Oval. After that, Lung Ruoxia sent Feng De and the rest to look for her clan brother. 2 days later, Jiang Fan's younger brother was brought back by Feng De and the others. In the living room, Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes were observing her clan brother. She saw that he had a nervous expression and did not even dare to raise his head. Furthermore, his clothes were torn and tattered, and his strength was not high. He was only at the initial level of deity. From the looks of it, he did not have a good life. The moment she saw him, Lung Ruoxia knew that he couldn't have been the one behind the incident at the city lord's residence. Firstly, he didn't have the ability to do so. Secondly, he didn't have such a powerful influence. You're Jiang Nua? Lung Ruoxia asked despite knowing the answer. Yes, I'm Jiang Nua. Jiang Nua whispered. You should know about Jiang Fan's matter, right? Lung Ruoxia asked indifferently. Yes, Captain Feng has told me about it. Jiang Nua quickly replied. Do you know what I want you to do? Lung Ruoxia asked with a smile. Miss, are you planning to let me replace you? Jiang Nua asked carefully, his heart pounding. Could there be such a good thing? He didn't dare to believe it. That's right. I need Linjiang city and someone to help me manage it. So, you must recognize me as your master and I will help you get Linjiang city. Lung Ruoxia stated her conditions. Good. However, on my way to the city, I heard that there's a new city lord in Linjiang city. I'm afraid, Jiang Nua was a little worried and did not finish his sentence. You're a member of the Jiang family, that person isn't. Lung Ruoxia said with a smile. Then I'll listen to Miss. Jiang Nua promised. He then issued the bloodline contract and officially recognized Lung Ruoxia as his master. Alright, go and have a good rest now. I'll ask Feng De to help you take back Linjiang city tomorrow. Lung Ruoxia said indifferently. Yes, this subordinate will take his leave. Jiang Nua said as he turned around and left the living room. He's really lucky. This is a meat pie that fell from the sky. Feng De sighed. None of you like to eat pies, so I'll have to find someone else. Lung Ruoxia rolled her eyes at Feng De and said helplessly. Hee hee. Feng De laughed awkwardly. Miss, Jiang Fan has forced Jiang Nua to the countryside to fend for himself for decades. Can he manage Linjiang city well? Yen Kuan said worriedly. Don't worry. He'll be fine. Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. If it wasn't for the fact that he had scruples about his clan brother's abilities, Jiang Fan wouldn't have found an excuse to dismiss him. She was very clear that Jiang Nuo was still holding a grudge in his heart. She had given Jiang Nuo this good opportunity, and he would definitely seize it. The next morning, accompanied by Feng De and the others, Jiang Nuo headed to the city lord's mansion. When they arrived at the city lord's mansion, the crowd killed number 3 and his subordinates with lightning speed. Then, they announced to the public that Jiang Nuo was the only member of the Jiang family and would be the next city lord of Linjiang city. The people in the city were in an uproar. However, due to Feng De and the others' ruthless methods, no one dared to raise any objections. At the same time, Feng De showed evidence of number 3 killing Jiang Fan and the others, which aroused the public's anger. Jiang Nuo's ascension to the city lord's position was even more successful. "Miss, it's done." After taking care of everything, Feng De rushed back to the inn alone. "Well, there might be people walking into the trap in the next few days. You have to be more vigilant at night." Lung Ruoxue nodded as she reminded. "Don't worry, miss. We've already set up an inescapable net and are just waiting for the fish to take the bait." Feng De laughed evilly. For the next few days, they would stay with Jiang Nuo in the city lord's mansion and deal with those who had bad intentions. However, after waiting for a few days, there was still no movement from the city lord's mansion. On the other hand, Jiang Nuo was getting more and more familiar with the affairs of Linjiang city. In the room of the inn, Lung Ruoxue leaned against the window and looked at the pitch-black night sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and it looked like it was about to rain. She couldn't help but smile and turn to the demon. "Today is a good day to do bad things. Hee hee. This kind of weather can indeed make people lower their guard, but I don't like to do bad things in the rain." The demon said with a look of disdain. "Even if you don't like it, it doesn't mean that others don't like it. The city lord's mansion is very lively now. Let's go and take a look." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. She had just received Qin Ju's voice transmission and knew that there was a guest at the city lord's mansion. Chapter 1193, Yuan Xi 2. Let's go. The demon smiled helplessly and left the inn with Lung Ruoxue. Naturally, those who wished for the world to be in chaos also left with them. When they arrived at the city lord's residence, Lung Ruoxue saw Feng De and his men in black fighting with a group of men in black. The number of men in black was more than twice that of Feng De and his men. Isn't this bullying the few with numbers? It's so unfair. When Lung Ruoxue saw the scene, she said with slight dissatisfaction. "Ah." When Cheng Wu heard his latest words, the corner of his mouth twitched. He thought to himself, "Why do I feel like this is bullying the many with the few?" From the looks of Feng De and the others, they were clearly having a great time killing. No, he had to join in the fun. When he thought of this, he took the initiative to help Lung Ruoxue before she could say anything. Seeing that Cheng Wu had joined the battle, Song Di and the rest did not want to be outdone and rushed into the battlefield. In an instant, the situation turned into a one-sided battle. When Feng De and the rest, who were having fun bullying the many with their numbers, saw this situation, they could not help but shout as if they were protecting their food. "Don't fight with us. These people are ours. Hee hee. Whoever sees it gets a share." Cheng Wu and the rest laughed evilly. As the blade in their hands fell, the man in black instantly fell to the ground and lost his life. Yen Kuan and Jiang Nuo, who weren't very clear about their fighting strength, couldn't help but widen their eyes when they saw this scene. They secretly thought to themselves, "These people are so ruthless. AI. How did the unlucky man in black end up in their hands?" At this moment, they felt a deep sense of sympathy for the group of men in black who had unknown origins. Not long after, most of the men in black were eliminated. However, Feng De and the others still kept one alive and locked the remaining man in black in the prison of the city lord's mansion for a good interrogation. With the ownership of Linjiang city, the 5 cities surrounding the Nightmare Forest were now in Lung Ruoxue's possession. After setting up a defensive formation for Linjiang city, Lung Ruoxue and the rest headed towards the forest. Sitting on the little peacock, Lung Ruoxiu's beautiful eyes surveyed the three towering peaks. She chose a relatively flat mountain as the main peak for her group. Shui, the environment here is really good, hee. I'm going to build a house here too. I'll come over to stay when I'm free. Master Ning looked at the lush green scenery in front of him and was in a good mood. Godfather, you can come and live here anytime you want. Lung Ruoxiu reminded him helplessly. She couldn't help but mutter to herself, did this old man think that I wouldn't let him stay here? Hee. Are you the master? Of course, I have to say hello to you. Master Ning said matter-of-factly. In fact, he was just being polite, because he knew that little Shui would not refuse him. Godfather, I can't be considered the owner of this place yet. Lung Ruoxiu reminded him. To own a territory, it wasn't something that could be considered as one's own. One had to obtain the acknowledgement of half of the factions on the godly mainland. Otherwise, the territory wouldn't truly belong to one's own. If I say it is, then it is. I'll see who dares to object. Master Ning's eyes widened, and he roared aggressively. He didn't believe that anyone would dare to oppose his precious goddaughter's decision to take a piece of land. Please reading on Abi Oxen. Oh, Godfather, let's just build the house first. Lung Ruoxiu wiped away the cold sweat on her forehead and changed the topic. All right, but Shui, I'm telling the truth. Master Ning reminded. Yes. Lung Ruoxiu agreed helplessly. However, with Godfather around, there wouldn't be too many people who would object. Miss, the wood has been cut. At this moment, Fengde came back and said, let's do it. Lung Ruoxiu took out a few blueprints from her bracelet and passed them to Fengde. Back in Linjiang City, she had drawn up a few blueprints based on everyone's opinions. The house they were going to build, the courtyard, and the interior of the house was similar to the house in the water margin continent. This request was naturally to satisfy her grandfather's homesickness, but there were also new things added, so it was not exactly the same. The location they chose as the main residence was located halfway up the mountain. It was an unusually large and flat area, and the main residence was surrounded by a river. The river was not very large, and from the outside, it looked like a silver ribbon, full of a faint chill. The river was so clear that fish could be seen swimming happily in it. After more than half a month of hard work, the main residence was finally completed. Everyone moved into their rooms happily and celebrated. Shortly after, Lung Ruoxiu announced to the godly mainland that the Nightmare Forest was taken. Instantly, it caused a huge commotion on the mainland. At the same time, Lung Ruoxiu set up a defensive formation around the mountain peak they were staying at. The defensive power of this formation was much stronger than the one she had set up before. Bang, bang, bang. After a few loud sounds, the defensive formation did not move at all. Master Ning, who was testing the power of the defensive formation, said in surprise, Shui, your array is so powerful. I can't even break it. Godfather, you can't display your true power on the divine continent. Lung Ruoxiu couldn't help but remind him. Actually, this array didn't seem that powerful to her. However, it was true that no one in the godly mainland could break through it. I'm still a reverent god. Come, let's try attacking together. Unwilling to give up, Master Ning called his subordinates and planned to attack again. Yes, Master Ning. Master Ning's subordinates replied. Then they attacked the defensive formation together. Bang, bang, bang. There were several more loud sounds, but the defensive formation was still operating as usual. This formation is so sturdy, I can rest assured. Master Ning said with a little pride. This array was set by his goddaughter, and he, as her godfather, was also honored. In fact, he had spared no effort to test the defensive power of this array because he was afraid that someone would bully his precious goddaughter when he was not around. Now that he had tested it, he was relieved. If he could not break the array, then, unless the Divine Master came personally, no one could break in. Little girls, to congratulate you on obtaining your own territory, this is my gift to you. The first elder took out a small and exquisite house from his ring and passed it to Lung Ruoxiu. Chapter 1194, Yuan Xi, 3. Why is it a high-grade divine artifact? Stinky old man, you're too stingy. Old Master Ning looked at the palm-sized house and said with disdain, "What do you know, you old thing? A high-grade divine weapon is just right for them to use. Furthermore, my house can grow. When the little girl's strength is high, the level of this house will also increase." The first elder said with a smug look. How could he possibly only gift a high-grade divine weapon to that lass, Lung Ruoxue? With his status, how could he take it out? He felt that this house was suitable for Lung Ruoxue and the rest. To put it bluntly, he had prepared this house for Lung Ruoxue when she entered the God world. This house and the storage ring were both spatial artifacts, but there were still some differences. The storage ring could only store non-living objects, but this house could be used for living. It should be known that such a spatial artifact was absolutely priceless in the divine realm. It was a good item that could not be bought even with money. The main reason was that it could be carried around, and it was very convenient to carry it wherever you went. However, it was also very difficult to refine such spatial equipment. Not only did it require a lot of materials, but it also depended on the artifact master's proficiency in the refining technique. Moreover, the success rate was very low. If Lung Ruoxue didn't have the universal bracelet, this house would be very useful to her. However, she was still very grateful for the first elder's kind intentions. As a weapon craftsman, she was very clear how difficult it was to craft a spatial type equipment. Furthermore, the first elder had been hiding in his room for the past few days, so he must have been busy crafting this house. Really? Let me see. Master Ning took the house from Lung Ruoxue's hands and observed it carefully. It was fine with a glance, because he realized that this house was exactly the same as the main residence they were living in now. It seemed that this old thing was quite thoughtful. First elder, thank you. This is for you. Lung Ruoxue took out a milky white object the size of a baby's fist and looked soft, and handed it to first elder. This is... The first elder looked at the soft white object and couldn't help but widen his eyes, his face full of disbelief. The item that Lung Ruoxue gave him was called Essence Qi. It was a type of natural treasure that was born from the heavens and earth. It was mainly produced in the glaciers of the deep sea. Not only was it rare, but it was also difficult to pick. Hence, the price of Essence Qi was only higher than the house that he had given Lung Ruoxue. Moreover, only with the primary breath could one refine space-type equipment that could accommodate people, because the primary breath's greatest effect was to create air that was suitable for human breathing. However, the vital breath he had used to refine this house was only the size of a fingernail, while the one Lung Ruoxue had given him was the size of a baby's fist. He could not help but feel embarrassed to take it. Even though it was not easy to obtain his own vital breath, such a large piece of it could be used to refine a few spatial-type equipment. He did not deserve it. Girl, this is too expensive. I can't take it. Although the first elder was envious, he did not take the piece of origin breath. Compared to the great elder's kind intentions, this is nothing. Lung Ruoxue replied nonchalantly. This elemental breath was one of the many ingredients that her master had left for her. Furthermore, she had chosen the smallest piece for the Grand Elder. Otherwise, the Grand Elder would have fainted from shock. Mo Yen and Lu Feng probably don't have such equipment either. This should be enough for you. Lung Ruoxue added. In other words, she was saying that this item was not for you alone. They just happened to be lacking this elemental breath. The first elder was a little speechless. This little girl had already seen through their thoughts, so how could he still refuse? He took the piece of primordial breath and was about to put it into his ring, but Master Ning snatched it away. Please reading on OIBOXNO. Come, this is elemental breath? Let me take a look. Master Ning's face was full of curiosity. Although he had lived for a long time, he had never seen this thing before. Who asked him to not be interested in refining weapons? Holding the vital breath in his hand, Master Ning looked at it carefully, and then kept poking the soft vital breath with his fingers, playing with it. Old man, this is not for you to play with. Seeing this, the head elder snatched back the vital breath and looked at Master Ning like he was guarding against wolves. Stinky old man, don't be so stingy. It's such a big piece of primordial chi, and it's a gift from my goddaughter. When you make another spatial equipment, you have to give me one. Master Ning took advantage of the situation. This is a gift from my godgranddaughter. It's none of your business. The first elder rolled his eyes and said in an extremely calm manner, Stinky old man, how can you do this? After all, we've been friends for so many years. You can't even bear to give me a house? Just make it according to my house in the divine realm. Master Ning continued, obviously wanting a share of the loot. It's not impossible if you want the house, but you have to prepare the materials yourself. The great elder said without any room for discussion. In his heart, he kept thinking, if this bandit had the materials, he would have made one for himself long ago. Would he still need to live in a tent? I can provide the materials myself, but you have to provide the essence energy. Master Ning wasn't stupid. The most important material for making inhabitable spatial equipment was this vital breath. And vital breath was something that was hard to find and couldn't be bought on the market at all. Therefore, he could only be lazy to deal with this stinky old man. Elemental breath? Master Ning, if you want this old man to provide the breath, why don't you arrange people to search in the glacier yourself? At this time, Lu Feng's voice interrupted. Stinky brat, it's easy for you to say, but do you think primary breath is like cabbages? If it was so easy to find, I would have sent people to look for it. It wasn't easy to go to the glacier to find the breath of vitality, because the breath of vitality was produced in the depths of the glacier. Unless one had the strength of a reverent god, they couldn't resist the cold of the glacier at all, let alone go down into the extremely cold water. Then why did you still let this stinky old man provide you with essence breath? He knew that his grandfather did have a small piece of vital breath in his hands. It was a precious treasure. If it wasn't for the fact that his grandfather didn't have enough materials, he would have refined it into a piece of equipment long ago. How could it be coveted by others? Little Shui gave him a piece the size of a baby's fist. It's enough to share with me. Master Ning said matter-of-factly. What? Lu Feng's eyes widened as he looked at Master Ning. A piece the size of a baby's fist, was that even possible? Chapter 1195. Yuan Xi 4. Not only him. Even Mo Yen and Luiwei, who had come with him, were stunned. They all looked at Master Ning in disbelief. They were suspicious of the truth of Master Ning's words. Why are you all looking at me? I don't have any elemental breath in my hands. The elemental breath has been kept by this stinky old man. You guys can go and ask him for it. Master Ning said with an evil smile. Grandpa. Lu Feng called out softly. Master. Mo Yen also called out. Although Luiwei did not shout, she looked at First Elder with anticipation. The girl did give me a piece of primordial breath. The First Elder didn't deny it, but he still glared at Master Ning in secret. The girl said that she's going to help us refine some living equipment. The Great Elder added. For us. Lu Feng was pleasantly surprised. This little fox still had some conscience. However, since it was for them, they couldn't let Master Ning keep an eye on it. Thinking of this, Lu Feng smiled and said to Master Ning, Uncle Ning, looks like you don't have a share of the essence breath. I'm really sorry. Who said I didn't? My goddaughter gave it to you. Master Ning reminded them, unwilling to give up. They couldn't even think about getting rid of him. Grandfather, is that essence chi really the size of a baby's fist? Lu Feng asked helplessly. It seemed that old man Ning was too lazy to give it to them, and he was the little fox's godfather, so he really couldn't refuse. Yes. The Great Elder nodded, then stared at Master Ning and said, Old man Ning, I've said it before, you have to prepare the materials yourself. I can provide the origin energy. No problem. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Master Ning also laughed happily. However, the First Elder, who had been robbed, was not in a good mood. Lung Ruoshua looked at the two adorable old men fighting and could not help but smile helplessly at the demon. She then took the room back to her room to study it. In the bracelet. Please reading on OIBOXNO. Calm the demon watched as Shui took the small house and looked it up and down, then dripped her blood on it to recognize it as her master, and placed the room on an empty space in the space. In an instant, the house grew from small to large, exactly the same as the main residence they had built. As Leng Ruoxue and the demon walked into the house, the beasts that were attracted followed them closely out of curiosity. They looked around the rooms one by one and then sat down in the garden. Shui, the spiritual qi here is not dense enough, but it's enough for living. The demon said with some regret. Demon, your requirements are too high. Actually, this house is not bad. If you want more spirit qi, you can set up a spirit gathering array inside. Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Yes, that's a good idea. With this room, we won't need to live in tents when we travel around the continent. Moreover, we can also live in this room when there are outsiders. The demon smiled. Although this house couldn't be compared to Shui Er's interspace, it wasn't as convenient for them to enter the interspace when there were outsiders around. Therefore, this house was a good choice. Sister, Feng De is looking for you. Just as the two of them were chatting, Qin Ju suddenly appeared. Oh! Leng Ruoxue had an idea and left the bracelet with the evildoer. Feng De was waiting for her in the room. What's the matter? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. The area of the nightmare forest was rather large, so she had sent Feng De and the rest out for the past few days. Other than investigating the situation inside the forest, she had also done so to confirm their private territory. After all, if they were to completely occupy a place where they could train, it would only lead to a collective attack from all the major factions. She did not want to be in the limelight now, so she decided to open up a piece of land. It was open to the public, but it had to be under her control. The reason why she had such an idea was also based on the rules of the Green Dragon Mountain. Miss, I've received news from City Lord Yen. The number of people entering the city has increased several times over the past few days. I'm guessing they're from the major forces. Feng De reported that no one knew that the 5 cities, including Yanbei, belonged to them. That was why they could easily grasp the movements of those forces. That's normal. It would be strange if they didn't come. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. These factions had arrived at the right time. She was just about to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. Otherwise, she would not have asked her godfather to disclose their relationship. Otherwise, if Master Ning had said that his goddaughter had taken a fancy to the nightmare forest, who would dare to object? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.